Well, hello there, and welcome to the stream. So, I thought I would do a stream on uh, new Trek and discussing various aspects of new Trek that we dislike mainly, but perhaps we can talk about some things that we indeed like about new Trek. So this is for my subs, but also for anyone who is just happening upon the stream and who is wanting to discuss new Trek and their likes and dislikes when it comes to this interesting phase of the franchise. Now, I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay. I wanted to obviously start with the beginning of TV era New Trek, but we can also discuss the films that have been made, the J.J. Abrams movies, as well as Beyond as well, because I think that they're important. It's important to understand these movies and what makes them unique. So there's no particular order to this. It's going to be pretty much me talking and people in the chat interacting and giving opinions. But really, with regards to the very beginning, which is after Enterprise went off the air, and Star Trek took a nearly 4-year hiatus, I believe, and J.J. Abrams came back with Star Trek 2009, which was at the time fairly exciting news. I remember seeing the trailer, the initial teaser trailer, with them building the Enterprise. And I thought, wow, okay, so this is gonna be Star Trek. It's coming back to our screens. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with this. And then we got the first trailer, which had the old crew from the original series just recast with different actors. And I remember thinking at the time, well, this is going to be really quite a different take. Let's see how Star Trek, this new Star Trek film, would be. And initially, my thoughts on 2009 Star Trek were generally quite positive. And I went to the cinema to see it, of course, as you would have done back then. And I ended up quite enjoying it as a popcorn flick. But after some further deliberation on this movie, I started asking the question, well, is it Star Trek? I mean, is it really Star Trek? And eventually the answer was no, not really. It depends how you depends how you view Star Trek, I suppose. It depends what you expect from a Star Trek film. Star Trek 2009 was interesting, to say the least. It was, beg pardon for that little interruption there. It was certainly a different take. It was less about the narrative, about the story, and more about the wow factor. But when you think about the story, the plot, it was the first one of the 3 films that followed essentially the same framework. And I was left, after reviewing this, I was left really... how can I put this? I was left sort of feeling a little empty by the end of this thought process that I was having, because the characters were rebooted characters. They were a reimagining of the characters that we had previously, which was okay on the face of it. Just on the watch net, hey, hello, how are you? Good to see you. Mike Kez, Michael Burnham, case closed. Yeah, well, there you go. So the more I thought about it, the more I started thinking that these characters pretty much aren't representative of what the original characters were. And then Into Darkness came out. And that's where I kind of felt a little bit robbed. My wife will tell you that the one thing that she did like about it is that Spock's hair moved when he was running. I said, well, of course it will. But she kind of liked that. But the second Star Trek movie was the Wrath of Khan, just, well, poor. I won't use bad language this early in the stream. But it was pretty poor. And the whole Khan reveal was spoiled well in advance of the movie, and it didn't work. It was really mispromoted. And then things just went further downhill from there. Dave Cullen did an excellent breakdown on why Into Darkness sucked, and also why Beyond sucked. And Beyond was one that really struggled to get made. And it eventually did get made, and it was just the same rehashed story again. You know, villain seeking revenge, or a villain that's really two-dimensional and uninteresting, simply seeking revenge against the Federation, because the Federation naughty in New Trek, all forms of New Trek. Value of Nothing is mostly brainless action with quips. Yeah, essentially, it's a very Marvel experience, really, in certain respects. Now, you know, most Marvel films are good, old-fashioned popcorn action. That's what they are. That's what they're designed to be. Some of the earlier ones definitely had some story to it, but those three films were quite far removed from the core principle and core ideas of Star Trek as a franchise. So, after those lackluster films and Star Trek Discovery looming on the horizon, I became much more aware of a problem that was forming along with this new Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery has a load of problems initially. There were always stories coming out of production. It was just essentially production hell, I suppose it was stuck in. And when I saw the first, I think it was a teaser I saw first of Discovery, and I saw the ship leaving the space dock, I suppose you could call it. The first thought I had was, this looks cheap as hell. This just looks nasty. Alan Scott, Star Wars Trek, yeah, pretty much. But yeah, it looked nasty. It looked like PS2 era graphics, and I wasn't expecting that. There was also nothing really interesting about that reveal. It was simply, hey, look, here's an old ship design that we've brought into modern new Trek, I suppose. And there you have it. That's all we're giving you is the ship. And then we had the trailer, which I found really interesting, actually. because again, it was a tonal change for Star Trek. See, everything was very dark, and we had this new character, and they came out with all the information about the show. It's going to be a show that focuses on the first officer rather than the captain being the main character. Now, I've always made this argument when it comes to main characters in Star Trek. Yeah, you have show leads, and I'm not saying you don't have lead actors in the shows. You have William Shatner, you have Patrick Stewart, you have Kate Mulgrew, you have Avery Brooks, you have Scott Bakula. That's fine. And really, the captain is the core. It's the attention's on the captain because they are the, quote, lead in the show. But I wouldn't class them as the only main character in these shows. The structure of Star Trek, the way Star Trek's told, its episodic nature, and the way the episodes focus on different characters having different stories is important. It's important to the core structure of what makes the show great. But now that we're going to shift the focus to the first officer, and that's where I had my first reservations about storylines in Discovery and where they were going to go that. But because I said that the focus of the show was never on the captain, really. It wasn't the primary focus. The focus of the show was to tell good stories with characters who were led by a captain. And they were going to go with the first officer on this one. And at that point, in hindsight, the alarm bell should have rung out like this massive klaxon in all the heads of Star Trek fans. Excuse me, it's quite dry in here. Watch nerd. New Trek is mostly just recycled ideas that are poorly written and executed. The golden age of sci-fi was the 1990s, in my honest opinion, with the notable exception of 2000's Battlestar Galactica and Enterprise. Yep, I agree with that one. So the first episode of Star Trek Discovery, this brand new show, aired, and my wife and I sat and watched it. And I was really meh about the whole thing. I wasn't happy with the style of the show. I wasn't happy with the lighting, which would become a major contention with the rest of the shows, and a big problem I have with the rest of the shows. It was a darker setting. It was somehow... It was the tone was just so wrong and so off and so antithetical to what Star Trek really was. It wasn't bright and optimistic. It was somber and just hard to watch. But there was one character in the new show that I began to enjoy a little bit, and that was including after episode 3. Now, episode 1 and 2 of Discovery were a much more sort of violent take on the Klingons with the marbles in their mouth. I don't know what they were thinking with the Klingons. The Klingons were just awful to look at, awful to listen to, and didn't really... It was like they were more primal than any other Klingon that you'd seen in Star Trek. They were more animalistic than previous Star Trek Klingons. And when you think Klingons in Star Trek, you think battle, honor, bat'leths. Drinking is a huge Klingon trait. They all like their blood wine, and they all like to get drunk, and they have a laugh, and there's this rich, vibrant culture, and it's kind of like a British drunk culture, I suppose, in some respects. But they were rich and interesting characters and an interesting species, a race of people. The culture was fascinating in many respects. A lot of Star Trek fans actually built their social lives around the dressing up as Klingons, going to bars, nerd bars of course, but going in packs and living a little bit of that culture, that made up culture. But there was something really off with the Discovery Klingons. They seemed it seemed like someone had taken Klingon lore and darkened it to such a degree it was unrecognizable. New Trek does have the most tears, says Matthew Ross, and Picard has the best Danger Man Picard voice, so that's that. Matt Stuttgart, greetings from Germany. Loved Trek until 2005. Greetings to you, Matt. It is great to have you here. This is going to be just me waffling on, so I will be reading comments in between me waffling on and telling you a little bit about my experiences with New Trek. For those who are new to the channel, because I'm not always a negative ninny, I like to get into some of the finer points of what makes these shows not great or not great. So the Klingons, they were really off. There was something really wrong with them. And the first 2 episodes was like, okay, so we've established our main character as Michael Burnham, a first officer on the USS Shinju, because all the ships now must have names from certain regions of the world. Which I thought, well, we have starship names from all over the world, so why not? Morrow Botta, I do apologise if I butcher any of your names. Greetings from California. Welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for joining. We got this first officer, Michael Burnham. She had mutinied against her captain because she thought the best way to respond to the Klingons was to throw the first punch. The Klingons would respect that. The episodes, I think, were known as they were called the Vulcan Hello. But so she started a war which cost thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives because she mutinied and threw the first punch. She mutinied against a captain and then got her captain killed. Now, quite rightly, she was arrested, court-martialed, and thus sentenced to prison for such actions, which you would expect. It was probably the most mature moment in all of New Trek, in hindsight. So, episode 3, Michael Burnham is pulled on to the USS Discovery, hence the show being called Discovery. Now, we don't obviously see the Discovery until episode 3. Fair enough. You wanted a little bit of a prologue. I get it. And then we meet a really, what I believe to be a really interesting, excuse me. What I believed to be a really interesting character, which was Captain Gabriel Lorca. That's right, I was, in the first season, a bit of a Lorca, not fan, but I found him the least annoying thing in that, annoying aspect of that show in the first season. And there was a little bit of mystery set up, and it wasn't a huge mystery, and it wasn't. I always say to them, to my wife, if I can solve the mystery or work it out before they reveal it, then it's not a very good mystery. Because when it comes to working things like that out, I'm not exactly the most intelligent person in the world. I don't quite often see things like that. I'm beginning to, the more I sort of look at things in a different way. But I figured out where Lorca came from before it was revealed. I said to the wife, I've worked it out. I know where I know where he's from. I know what they're doing. So the one character that I did actually like turned out to be a bad guy from another universe. The evil Gabriel Lorca from another universe. And they started focusing on, I wouldn't say tropes, but elements of Star Trek that at the time in the 90s made things a little bit more interesting. Section 31, the Mirror Universe. These two rather large organizations, the Parallel Universe organization being the Terran Empire, they focused on them, and I was thinking, right, okay, so they've taken some elements from previous Trek and they're putting their emphasis on well, they're putting their point of view across, and they are showing their versions of these organizations. Now, Section 31, I saw a comment in the chat about Section 31, about the upcoming Section 31 movie. I couldn't tell you how more uninterested I could be at this point in Section 31, the movie. So Discovery introduced they introduced their Section 31, and they were wearing Starfleet uniforms with a black strip down the com badge, hinting that they were Black Ops. There's another alarm bell for you, because Black Ops, if you're running Black Ops, you don't have an insignia that says you're Black Ops around everybody else. And you know, there may be organizations in the world that do that currently, but my focus here is Star Trek. Section 31 was not known to Starfleet at that point. And if they were, it was the highest levels of Starfleet. They worked so in secret. But on Discovery, they're just on the ship, because they're Starfleet Black Ops. So that was a big alarm bell. They chose to make the series about the first officer. That was another alarm bell. And all the focus was on Burnham and this other character called Ash, who was actually a Klingon all along. And they did some really interesting things with that character. The gruesome gore of this show was really out of touch with Star Trek. It wasn't what it was about. But the show had other shows to contend with, like Game of Thrones, and the amount of blood, gore, guts, violence that you get on those shows. So there was a new bar that they had to hit. Season 2 upped the ante quite a bit and got really quite distasteful with it. So they created this world in Star Trek, a prequel to the original series, where they had this ship that was experimenting with a new way to fly, a new way to traverse the universe, or the galaxy, or the universe. It should be the galaxy, but it's the universe. Sod it. Using a new MacGuffin device called the Spore Drive, which uses a magical, mystical, woo-woo network called the mycelial network, and it's essentially a network of mushrooms in space. There's a few comments to get through here. I'll read them shortly. So the Discovery was experimenting with a new way of flying, which is called a Spore Drive, and it's jumping, and they go into what's known as Black Alert, which I thought was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Jackie Dozes, hi, how are you? Klingons were always somewhere between the stereotypical sort of Vikings and samurai to me, and that worked. New Trek Kling orcs were just a huge mistake. Yep, couldn't agree more. Mystic Librarian, the tears, bickering, back talk against Chain of Command, and the worship of burnt ham makes the show a tragic comedy. It does, but it's kind of, yeah, you're laughing maniacally a lot of the time with tears in your eyes, ironically. Matt Ross, I also think New Trek was doing change for change's sake, just to say it's not your father's Trek. Well, for me, it's just a lot of bad writing, insipid dialogue, and odd camera work. Weird sound effects, weird special effects choices like turbo lift and flamethrowers, and everyone half-assed tells of their emotional lives, also making the main character the first insufferable traitor, then insufferable space god, adding to an autocrat. Adding in an autocrat murderer was just idiotic. Yes, completely agree. So Michael Burnham's committed mutiny, and by the end of season 1, she is back as a full commander and first officer of the Discovery, if I believe, if I'm correct. So there were a lot. I apologise for the buzzing that's going on. So there were a lot of problems with season 1, but if you look back, and this has been taken out of context before, so I'm going to be very careful how I say this. If you look back with hindsight, I think everyone would agree that Star Trek Discovery season 1 is the best season of Star Trek Discovery, because boy oh boy did it go downhill after that. Value nothing, but nothing happens to Burnham. She eventually gets promoted to captain. Yeah, I'll get there, trust me. Maybe Kurtzman is just a pack-led in disguise. You make it work. Matthew Ross at New York Comic Con, they bleeped over Disco and talked in really general terms on the 31 movie. You could blame the strike, or that they just aren't there yet. I don't think they're there yet. I think regardless of the strike, the Section 31 show is blooming doomed. Ignoring canon is my biggest problem with New Trek. Yeah, it does ignore canon. Orcs. What about Klingon K-pop vomit? We'll get to that as well. Clayton, how are you, my friend? It's good to have you here. I can't speak Klingon, but I hated how Disco's Klingons sounded like math prosthetics were tripping their tongues. Yeah. I could eat a bag of mint Imperials and achieve the same speech as as they had. It was really jarring, and even the text on the screen didn't make too much sense either. Don't get me started about Picard's Jurati legitimate murderer allowed just to waltz on as if all is well. New Trek's morals are off. And how much did Tom Paris do in comparison to Michael Burnham? Best serial killer of New Trek, Mbenga, yeah. So, just focusing on Discovery for the time being, because believe me, I'll get to the other shows. Season 2 was where I bailed. Now, I will give them some credit, and only some credit. They did at least listen to some of the criticisms. Now, I believe that they cherry-picked those criticisms, and they listened to the more obvious criticisms of Discovery, which was going to be the Klingons, the bleak outlook, not in keeping with Trek, and some of those points were valid, but they weren't the primary moans of the fans. Now, I believe that they cherry picked them, because if they hadn't, I beg your pardon, if we have dropped out somewhat, it appears my internet is having a spaz, which is typical, really, because I'm live. So there you go. I do apologise if you've been booted off. those criticisms of Discovery were paid attention to, but they weren't the main ones, is my point. A lot of people's criticisms were on the cast not being strong, which you come to expect in a new show, a new series, because you don't actually have the established footing of a decent show, or you have to get it set up first. But it's also the tone of the show was really off. So season 2 they did listen, but they didn't listen to what they should have listened to, and that's what the fans were saying. They listened to some really baseline criticisms. And season 2 they slightly altered the Klingons to give them hair, and offered no explanation as to in universe as to why they chose to do that, or why, or how that happened. And season 2 seemed to just up the gore, which I never understood. Why they would just up the violence to a point where you see severed heads of infant children, and that's just horrendous. What a horrendous thing to have in Star Trek. This show that you could easily show your children, depending on what age they were. You could show them this show. My son is currently sitting through some Deep Space Nine with me, and I feel comfortable allowing him to watch that because there are no severed infant heads in it. So Star Trek Discovery took a big nosedive, and I said that season 2 was where I essentially bailed. And bailed I did. The season finished airing, and I eventually decided to go back to it. Boy. I remember trying to binge it in pretty much an afternoon, and I fell asleep during one of the episodes because it was that dull. And the whole direction season 2 took was just horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. It was so dull, so boring. And the whole thing with Control, you got Control, which was, I think, a Section 31 AI that went berserk. And the entire structure of the second season just did not work for me in any way, shape or form. And the whole, again, the focus on Michael Burnham was just intolerable, which was where it would pretty much get worse at that point, into season 3. Now, season 3, if I recall, I did review it. I did reviews on my channel. They are set to private, these reviews, because they were when I was just starting out YouTube, and my sound was terrible. People could barely hear me speak. I reviewed season 3 on my channel, and it was a horrible season, absolutely awful. And then season 4, that's when my channel really started to gain subscribers. So Discovery went from a weak starting point to an even weaker fourth season. And when they went to the future, and they wrote that simply to avoid damaging canon too much, because if you damage canon too much, then it loses its identity as Star Trek. So they sent them 900 years into the future, where, surprise, surprise, the Federation-hating writers decided that the Federation was no more. And we had the burn, which destroyed all the dilithium in the galaxy. I believe it was just localized to our galaxy. And there was this big mystery about the burn and what happened. So the burn was essentially at some point in the at some point midway between Discovery leaving for the future and the future that they end up in, that 900 years. I believe a couple of hundred years. The burn happened a couple of hundred years before Star Trek Discovery, the Starship Discovery entered into the future. And the burn was where all the dilithium in the galaxy ignited all at once, destroying countless ships, countless alien colonies, cultures. I mean, it just essentially it isolated every species off from the other species because no one could use warp drive because there's no dilithium. So they killed the future, and they did it with a burn. And it was revealed that the burn was caused by a Kelpian. Now we met the Kelpians in the first season, obviously with Saru, and they get their threat ganglia, and they get all scared and territorial and all of that stuff. But this individual, this Kelpian, had a hissy fit, and because he was in a nebula that, I don't know, boosted telepathic signals or something, he set off an explosion which ignited all the dilithium in the galaxy. God, that was so stupid. So stupid. I couldn't actually believe what I was seeing. And it turns out it could happen again. So Saru has to go and save the day by talking this Kelpian down. I'll just describe the Kelpian as a little slow. He was not as mentally capable as most other people. So he was responsible for the burn, which isolated the Federation, nearly destroyed the Federation. The Federation are in hiding. Starfleet's in hiding. In a starbase? Please do correct me if I'm wrong on this. I'm really trying to remember what happened, because I didn't actually care enough to try and remember anything from season 3 and season 4 of Discovery. It was terrible. Season 2 was just the worst. So yeah, they are. Starfleet are hiding in this cloaked area around a starbase, I believe. And Discovery gets pulled in. It gets overhauled. So now the nacelles are separate from the hull, and the nacelles just float along with the ship. I don't know how that really works. I don't know how any other science works, because to quote some of the dog shit characters, awful characters in Discovery, science is so fucking cool, but they don't understand the science. So Discovery is pulled in, and they reference like Voyager. They've got the Voyager J. Is it the Voyager J? I don't know. But there's no other interesting characters in the future, and Burnham has to save the day because she's Burnham, and she just manages to solve every single problem, and she rebuilds the Federation single-handedly. Good God. I just watched 3 seasons of Disgracery. Yes. Matthew Ross. I'm really behind on the comments. Bear with me. It was hard to watch as the show just kept on pushing diverse space Jesus Burnham as someone to like. Yeah, exactly. They were trying to get you to like this character, while simultaneously not making her likable in the slightest. There was absolutely nothing to like about Michael Burnham. God. Absolutely ridiculous. If they had really listened to the fans in STD2, they would have gone episodic well before Strange New Worlds. But yes, yeah, but the whole point is, my whole point is, they never went episodic. Okay, they trialed it a little bit in Strange New Worlds season 1, but they never went episodic. Every single episode of season 2 is previously on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. You must have watched this episode to understand what's happening in this episode. That's not episodic, that's serialized. You can tell individual stories in an episodic fashion, but when your episodes bleed into one another, that's not episodic. And they never ever carried it out. They never followed through with it. It was absolutely ridiculous what they did. Absolutely stupid. Apropos Klingons dancing in Strange New Worlds, what do you think about Jar Jar Abrams' Trek, also New Trek? I did cover a little bit of Jar Jar Trek. I will circle back to that at some point. Just remind me later in the stream. Watched three seasons of Disgracery. Star Trek Discrepancy, yeah. STD Burn, yeah. Oh, God, it was terrible. STD Burn, I like that one. I watched the fourth season 2. It was dog shit. Yes, it was. The only okay new Trek is Lower Decks. I'll get to Lower Decks, I think. It makes perfect sense that the Discovery could save the 30th century. After all, we need to retrieve Leif can't say that one. Ericsson from the year 1080 to save us from all our problems today. Yeah, and again, as I think I said on Sunday, yeah, you need Khan. You need a frozen superhuman from the 20th, 21st century, whichever one it is, to help you build a warship in 2270 or whatever it is, 2250. He's 100 years out of date with all technology, yet with his intellect, he can fix it. He can build a ship. What a load of crap. Into darkness. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Stopped after season 2. Afterwards, I only watched Picard season 1 and 3. Whew. My sincere condolences for you. It was in hiding, except when it wasn't. Yeah, exactly. Of course, Earth is no longer part of the Federation because reasons. Yeah, Earth split from the Federation. The founding planet of the Federation split from the Federation. And it's like, oh, you got to have President of Earth. It's just ridiculous. They got hollow controls until the the effects budget couldn't carry it. Yeah, exactly. They had all the beep, things coming out of the communicators, didn't they? Oh God, that was stupid. I'm sorry, you'd have crewmen walking into walls with that sort of thing. Picard. They destroyed my favourite character of my teens. He should save every Romulan. I loved that scene in season 2 of STD where Burnham was tortured to summon her mom. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Well, yeah, because wasn't season 2 the Red Angel, where they get 7 red signals appear across the galaxy, all at the same time. 7 red signals all at the same time, all from various places in the galaxy, which just wouldn't happen. It defies laws and logics, the logic and laws of physics. It just doesn't. Apparently things are just falling over here. Defies all physics. I mean, come on, really? God, the Red Angel suit as well. It was like Iron Man. It's just Iron Man. Now, I understand to a certain degree the problems that Star Trek, any new Star Trek show would have. It's the same problem any other show has. The ideas and the creativity is just gone. There's nothing left to do. Do you know how incredibly difficult it is to be creative in these times? To do an original story? It's so hard. And shows can be derivative and good at the same time. Of course they can. But when those shows are derivative and lack quality, substance, cohesion, isn't that where you get serious problems cropping up all over the place? When a show lacks those things, It's just not capable of being good. Now you could have massively derivative sci-fi. Star Trek's derivative of itself at times. Certainly classic Trek. You look at a lot of stories in Enterprise and they would just rehash stories of previous Star Trek shows and other sci-fi shows. The episode with Trip and the alien on the desert planet, you know, that was Enemy Mine with Dennis Quaid. Great film. But that was a great episode of Enterprise. I enjoyed it. It was derivative, but it was still good. Still enjoyable. It had a bit of a Star Trek twist to it. So Enemy Mine was a great film, but the episode of Enterprise was also good. You know? You look at episodes of Enterprise and yeah, it is derivative. It's stuff they'd done before. You know? What was it? I think it was E squared with the second Enterprise, and the fact that it became a generational ship because they got thrown back in time. That's just a rehash of the Deep Space Nine episode, Children of Time. Was it Children of Time? Oh, I forget the name of it now. But yeah, where they went back in time, they got thrown back in time and became. They had descendants. They built a colony and everything. So, yeah, Star Trek can do that. It's not a problem. You want to tell the same story in a different way, go ahead. We are entering a time of a time in civilization of very little creativity. There's certainly not a renaissance. So it is just the same shit over and over again. But Discovery does that and it's not good. It's not believable. You can't imagine being on Starship Discovery. The sets, the set design, the ship design makes no sense. Now, the original Enterprise, even the refit and the A, for example, were vertically quite tall. You know, you had a centre section where there would be quite an imaginable 12-story drop, quite the chasm, you know. But Discovery is sleek and it's got visibly. I can't see it having anything over 7 decks, and yet you're able to free fall in the turbo lifts of Discovery, which is this massive open area in the ship. I could run downstairs and get you my Next Generation technical manual, which explains every bit that's worth mentioning on the USS Enterprise D and all the technology that it uses, how the warp drive works, where things go, what things do. On Discovery, you can't do that. Probably because they'd be forced to put the flamethrowers in the walls and try and justify why there's flamethrowers in the walls. So you can't imagine yourself being on the Starship Discovery. And you can't imagine walking through the corridors and knowing where you're going. Now, you could do this to some extent on other older Trek ships. The Define, you pretty much knew the layout. The Enterprise D, you knew the layout. And Stage 9, they added some wonderful sections to it. But you can't do that with Discovery. They cried all the time in Star Trek Discovery. Yeah, it was Tears Trek. It was definitely Tears Trek. There was so much crying, I couldn't actually stand watching it anymore because of all the tears. And Sneakwa Martin Green was fantastic in The Walking Dead, was she not? She was brilliant in that. I'd loved seeing her. And then when I thought, oh, you're going to play the lead in the Star Trek show? Okay, let's see what you got. And all it is Burnham crying. It's like a chick flick in certain respects. Like a Hallmark Star Trek. but without any substance to it. The episode where Saru is dying, or thinks he's dying because his threat ganglia, they fall out, and every Kelpian goes through this and they die. The episode was painful to watch, not because I felt something here emotionally, but because it was so corny, cheesy, and badly written and badly acted that I didn't buy it for a second. I also didn't buy the fact that Saru was such good friends with Michael Burnham. Saru started by hating Michael Burnham for what she did on the Shenzhou. And suddenly, he's their best friends. Doesn't work for me. Cameos in Star Trek used to be about real fans of Star Trek getting an opportunity to be a part of it by being a background character, an ensign or a transporter operator. Dr. Mae Jemison, Terry Hatcher, what was her name? Robin Leffler, Ashley Judd, Whoopi Goldberg. Although, Whoopi Goldberg, say what you will about her now, she wanted to be in Star Trek. She was inspired by Uhura, by Nichelle Nichols. These actors came in. Yeah, Clayton's absolutely right. These actors came in to be part of something pretty special. I wouldn't care about a cameo by a politician if it followed that pattern, but doing a self-insert of the President of Earth was in poor taste. I completely agree. They had no place doing that whatsoever. And that was quite telling. They were showing their political bias there, I think. And it just proved to us all pretty much where they stand. Because can you really imagine them getting a lead Republican to come in? And, someone from the right to come in and play a part? No, of course not. Because it has become a bubble. Those Red Angel signals really highlighted the lack of science of a science advisor's secret hideout. Not that Mushroom Drive didn't do that as well. Yeah, Mushroom Drive. God, what a ridiculous thing to have in a Star Trek show. A Mushroom Drive. I really my episodic series. I really miss episodic series, 20 episodes a season. Yeah, and again, points to a cultural... Not cultural. Why should it be a cultural? Lack of creativity. It's a lack of creativity. And it has got something to do with Western culture nowadays, because all we do is take stuff and rework it. I'm guilty of this in some respects with my artwork. I'll be damned if I can draw an original thought in my head, but I can copy what I see because copying is easy. I can copy an image and I can draw Patrick Stewart. That's absolutely fine. But I can't make up a cartoon character out of scratch. I don't have that creative part. I can create something, but it's only using information around me. And I haven't had time to stretch that muscle. But then the writers of New Trek haven't had that either. There are new non-American series and movies which are very enjoyable. Yeah, I hear that South Korea, there's some great stuff coming out of South Korea. And Germany is producing some wonderful things. Netflix is getting bombarded with all these different shows that are original, and although fairly low budget and quite obscure, some of them are absolutely wild. They're absolutely entertaining, very entertaining stuff. So I agree. No German, but British and Canaries, but not Robin Hood. Canadian. Sorry, he's corrected himself there. I just read it as I saw it. Yeah. No, Rob Winehood. Rob Winehood. Rob Winehood. Oh God, I saw the drinkers video on that. It's a great video, but my God, what a lousy show! What a lousy idea for a show. Oh God, let's just take the Robin Hood legend and skew it. Awful. I never watched The Walking Dead, just played it. Well, The Walking Dead was an interesting one as well, because that just got really piss poor eventually, didn't it? It dried up. They didn't quite execute the idea of The Walking Dead, and they made it the show far too long, in my opinion. It was a very slow burn. But yeah, Sonequa Martin Green, she was great in that. I thought the character was really good. Zell, how are you? Don't fear, I am here for this discussion of cancer mixed with AIDS. That is New Trek. I've come into I've come in at the right point. With Miss Abrams. Oh, I'll talk a little bit more about that. To be fair, even my music draws inspiration from artists I admire: Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Alice in Chains. It's hard to be 100% original. You're absolutely right. It is so hard. I don't like to be too harsh on people who can't come up with something original. If you're going to make something slightly different to something else that came before, that's fine. But as long as you have enough talent to understand basic story structure, as long as it's there, as long as you have enough talent to pull it off, you can retell stories to the end of time if you make them interesting. But you can't do that with New Trek. They just simply don't have it in them to do that, in my opinion. Patrick, STD Season 1 was such a waste story-wise. Okay, looked to be a series about war, but then every 3 episodes it became something else. The last episode was a boring ending of the war. Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, the way wars end is quite boring anyway, I suppose. But Discovery Season 1 was good in comparison to what came after. It was horrible, what came after. And everything was so disjointed. And you've got, my name is Buck. I'm a bit of a rogue in the future. And I've been doing all right with my cat and my ship that can change shape, but suddenly Michael Burnham comes along, and my God, did I fall head over heels for her? She is my only space Jesus. Can I think of a duller character in Star Trek than Buck? I'll just follow your lead, Michael. I'll follow you anywhere. You mystery woman from the past who came in an Iron Man suit and saved the universe. I'm in love. Sorry. Ever watched Farscape? If so, what is your take? No, I haven't watched Farscape. I do own it on DVD. I think it's downstairs. I say I think it's downstairs. I'm just not sure. I had a bit of a culling of DVDs, and I think I kept Farscape. But it was one of those shows that I missed when it originally aired. I just haven't had time to revisit it. There's a lot of shows I want to revisit. But, as I get older, I can't do multiple shows. I have like 3 that I focus on at a time. But yeah, Farscape is something I do want to watch for absolute certain. So back to Discovery. We'll finish up with Discovery and we'll move on to other Star Trek, like Picard. I've been waiting to talk about Picard Season 1 because I did a small review on it, but we'll get to that momentarily. There's a load of things I could talk about with Discovery, and I may choose a separate live stream for Discovery because Discovery raises a lot of problems with Star Trek. But Star Trek Discovery, I think, was the beginning of the end for New Trek. It was the beginning, but it was definitely the beginning of the end for New Trek. It was absolutely horrendous. I'm thirsty. All this talking. You're thirsty. Raymond Tarker as well. Was it Raymond Tarker? Is his name Raymond? I don't know. Tarka was just inexplicable, and the things that they, I mean, generally speaking, in Discovery, they write these characters saying the most ridiculous of things in ridiculous ways, but Tarka was just absolutely inexplicable. And again, played by a really decent actor. But yeah, the character was terrible. Now, I'm going to butcher his name. I'm not even going to attempt his name, but he played the Arab guy in The Mummy. I can't remember his name. Yeah, he played Carlos in Resident Evil, the movie series by Paul W.S. Anderson. You know, I'm a fan of Resident Evil, and I thought I'd make some movies with my wife. That particular film series. Horrible. He played the Commodore, is it? Or the main admiral guy, and he was okay. He's a good actor, but again, just it was a shocking character, a bad character to be in New Trek. And there's been some decent actors come into Discovery, and they're just given slop. It's kind of like if you had a date with a celebrity. You know, I got a date with Gal Gadot. Where did you take her, UK Danger Man? Where did you take her? Where did you wine and dine this absolute beauty of the movie industry? I took her to Burger King. It's kind of like that. You got these actors who are capable of wonderful things, and you've got these writers that are creating such hodgepodge for them to star in and act in. But yeah, Discovery, big waste and a bad start, which of course moves us on to the Picard segment of this live stream. I've been wanting to talk about Picard in some detail for a while, because Picard is where my channel blew up. And I say blew up, it's kind of like my channel kind of like blew up and then sort of fizzled a little, and it's been stagnant for a while. I don't get a lot of growth on YouTube. I'm not bitter about that. I enjoy everybody who's here on the channel. I enjoy being and conversing with you all. It's absolutely fantastic. My channel goes where my channel goes. In the end, it doesn't really matter to me. But Picard is where I really had enough. And I didn't make YouTube reviews on Picard Season 1 because I started with Discovery Season 3. But Season 1 of Picard angered me quite spectacularly. And I will get into why in just a moment. When Discovery first revealed the magic mushroom drive, my physics brain immediately thought, okay, so it's a galaxy spanning mycelial network. How much would it weigh? Yeah, probably about the same as dark matter. My God, yeah. Wouldn't it have been interesting if they said, "Oh, in in the early 21st century, humans mistook dark matter. They mistook dark matter for what it actually turned out to be the mycelial network." That would have been at least somewhat interesting, although picked apart later. Have you watched Battlestar Galactica? Was really good. I watched bits of Battlestar Galactica. I've not really watched an awful lot of it. Again, it's something that I'm trying to get through. Picard, a destroyed legend. 7 of 9 bloody. Okay, so Picard. We've reached that point. Picard. So, the first thing I heard about Picard was obviously Patrick Stewart. I believe Star Wars. Star Trek, was it Las Vegas? Where he says, Jean-Luc Picard is coming back. And this was off the back of Discovery Season 2, was it? And I was like, oh, God, no. Please, no. No. Could be interesting. Please don't. But could be interesting. And then we got the teaser trailer. And I even posted it on my private Facebook. And I says, this could be interesting. I said to my friend Wayne, I says, Wayne, look at it. It could work. It could be interesting. This could be more like it. And smack bang wallop, I was so disappointed in the end. Watched the first episode. I was thinking, uh-oh, there's problems here. And there were massive problems just with the first episode. So I thought, well, okay, so we've got Picard and he's going, I want to die. I just want to die. Well, that's depressing. What's happened to this admiral who has no doubt been revered throughout Starfleet for decades as one of the most decorated officers and one of the best negotiators, a fine captain, a good leader, handy in a shuttle as well. What has happened to this man? Why is he so depressed? He wants to just die on my finger. Well, I started reading articles from the creators of the show that said that Picard needed to be knocked down a peg or two because he was too privileged. And that just sent shivers down my spine, if I'm honest. Completely honest, it was horrendous to read. But the first episode of Picard was disappointing, not gonna lie. And he was not Jean-Luc Picard. And even Patrick Stewart says, oh, you're going to see a much different Picard in this. Yes, you see. And boy, did we see a different Picard. I saw a man that was broken, beaten down, and downtrodden by life itself. And that's not the Picard we remember. And that's the problem with New Trek, is especially when they bring back these legacy characters, they make them so unlike what we left. Now, you could argue that 20 years would change a person. 20 years, something tragic could have happened. What happened to Picard in all those years that turned him into a ball bag? Well, what happened? Data died. It made him sad. Data died, and it made him sad. And he was going, oh, all those years, I remember Data sacrificing his life. And, Girardi, character, not actress. Girardi claims that, and again, this was just so telling of what who these people are. My hair's fluffy today; it's irritating me. I do apologise. Who they are and how much they don't know about Star Trek. Girardi claimed that B4 was a bad copy of Data. At that point, I nearly suffered an aneurysm, for God's sake. B4 was not a copy of Data. B4, the name B4 means to come. It meant it came before Lore and Data. He's B4. He's a prototype. He's not a bad copy of Data. And then they claimed that you could clone an android using a process called fractal neuronic cloning, which I redubbed on my video. Practical moronic droning or something like that. It doesn't matter. It's a stupid joke, but the problem was very real. fractal neuronic cloning. You can clone an android from one neuron. And it began to lose me. Picard, the young girl called Daj, yeah, it was Daj, wasn't it? Who visits Picard because she's going through the problems of the storyline and her brain's exploding because it's so stupid. She explodes at one point in the first episode, and Picard is flung what must be 50 feet. An 80-year-old man is flung 50 feet by an explosion that would have killed someone. He miraculously survives and wakes up back at his chateau. There was just so many things, so many horrible things that were happening in that episode that it just beggared belief. And of course, they had to have the little roam around of the Picard vault and the Memberberry vault. Oh god, it was horrible. Break for some comments. Speaking of Picard season 1, speaking of Picard, season 1 was so nihilistic it made me want to take a bath with a toaster. Season 2 was infuriating that I wanted to bash my head against a wall. For Picard season 2, only watched the reviews. They were hilarious, mate. The Picard season 2 was a surreal experience for me, and it's where I found my funny bone when it came to doing my reviews, because I just had so much material. I didn't even have to work for it. I simply just reviewed the episode and just... And that was, I believe that was the birth of the Picard impression. Season 3, whilst okay, was bogged down by what came before and in retrospect felt unnecessary, but a decent attempt. Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. We'll get to season 3 in a little while. Picard should have become an archaeologist. Yes, he should have done. Season 1 was so offensively bad and character destroying. Story made no sense. Irish Romulans. Those cheeky fuckers. Sorry. Whenever I do an Irish accent, my friend always said I sound like Seamus McFly from Back to the Future 3. You could have worked away, and no one would have thought any less of you. Sorry. The discard, more like, yeah, Vanzen, you're right. That they portrayed Earth as having moved past Picard and crew in 20 years. It was blood boiling. Can you imagine a group of people saves all life on Earth and is forgotten 2 decades later? Not only forgotten, I say forgotten, you could argue that Picard would be something of a, a bit of a piece of history, I suppose. Kind of like a larger-than-life Jordan Collier from what's that show? The 4400. And he's almost become a legend, I suppose. And you could argue that the younger generation simply don't really know him that well. They don't revere him and look up to him. He's just a figure of history, although he's still alive. He's somewhat just, forgotten about because he's retired and he's not the new best admiral or best captain. You could sort of believe that and get past that, I suppose. But what frustrated me more is the fact that they treated him with such disrespect. Admiral Shell fucking Gilbreth. That moment. God, it drove me up the wall. I need a shuttle. I need a ship. I need a ship. This girl might be in danger. I would be in command of the mission, but not of the ship. And then she goes, yeah, fucking Hubos. No, it didn't work for me. The whole storyline of Picard season 1 with Data and the sheer unbelievability of the entire season made me actually hate Star Trek for a little while, until I came to my senses and realised that it wasn't Star Trek. despised where they took the character. They gave him his Irumodic syndrome, or they gave him, they put emphasis on the fact that this syndrome was going to kill him. And you had this motley crew, and I remember reading the article about it's not going to be the same kind of Picard that you remember. It's going to be a Firefly type show in space. And I thought, that sounds really dumb. And when 7 of 9 came into it, I was dismayed, to say the least. But I do want to talk a little bit about Mr. Manu, about Icheb, the character of Icheb. Now, the actor, he said what he said. That's whatever. The character of Icheb deserved better than he got. The Icheb moment for me was really disturbing, unnecessary, graphic, unnecessarily graphic, and very disrespectful to Star Trek fans all over. Icheb had made it back to the Alpha Quadrant, became, he joined Starfleet, this promising young man from Voyager, who I actually really liked the character of Icheb. I thought he was really good. And they destroyed him. They ripped his eyeball out in a unnecessarily graphic torture scene where they're harvesting Borg parts, and 7 of 9 euthanizes him. I mean, where's the optimism there? Where's the optimism in Star Trek when you've got that kind of crap happening? It's a horrible disservice to a great character. And at that point, I mean, good God. At that point, I just remember feeling quite stung. But I mean, there were a few little highlights here and there of Picard season 1, and that was seeing Riker and Troy happy and you got a few Riker moments, great Riker moments. But of course, in New Trek fashion, they had to have this tragedy in their past that made it so much more interesting, don't you think? Tragedy. So one of their children died. They died of something that had synth life not been banned. Oh God, synth life not been banned. Would have saved their son would still be alive. So they didn't like the synth ban, or at least I think I'm remembering that right. So really what happened in Picard, the overall sort of story is the Romulan star was going to explode and take out the Romulan Empire. The science in the science fiction show was absent that day. Jesus Christ. The Romulan star, the main Romulan star, was going to go supernova. And that supernova was going to affect the quadrant. And it was going to turn Romulans into refugees. This empire with fleets of starships. Their home world, the star that their home world orbits, was going to go supernova. So the Romulans, instead of using their resources to evacuate their own planet, were waiting for a Starfleet rescue armada. You have any idea how big the Romulan Empire is? It's comparable to the size of the Federation. One supernova was not going to do a damn thing to the Romulans. Even if it was their homeworld, they'll just relocate on one of the 100 other planets within their star empire. But the writers of Picard didn't care about that, you see. There is a wife coming up the stairs with the tea. Thank you very much. She bought me tea. I love her. Would you just shut the door, dear, please? Thank you. Romulan Star Empire destroyed with one supernova. Now, a supernova explosion cannot travel faster than the speed of light because, you know, nothing in nature can, with the odd exception of a Star Trek episode here and there. But my point is, a supernova or star going nova, or becoming a supernova, would destroy the solar system. True. But think about this. If our star, and it won't, because it's not that kind of star, but if our star suddenly exploded, it would take 8 minutes for us to realise the star has exploded because of the light. It would take much longer for that shockwave to hit us, because the shockwave would not be travelling at the speed of light. It would be travelling fast, but it would take some time to reach us. We may feel the gravitational shifts and the gravitational effects, but we wouldn't actually get the shockwave within those 8 minutes. So you imagine a star-going supernova. It would take centuries for that supernova to affect another star system because of the distances involved and the speed of the shockwaves and everything. So that's a problem with the science of Picard season 1. But also you have the fact that the Romulan Star Empire, that they have fleets of these warbirds that they could use to evacuate their own people. They wanted an allegory for refugees, and they made the Romulans pansies who blame Picard for not saving them. Because in Picard, he tried to convince Starfleet. He convinced Starfleet to send a rescue armada to rescue the Romulans, even though the Romulans didn't need rescuing. And then there was an android uprising. All the androids, or synths as they're called, because they've got to have a cool new name, synths, went berserk and destroyed the armada in a now famous incident at Utopia Planitia, where that was destroyed. And the whole thing about Picard is finding out why these androids went berserk. And it's never really explained. There is a new Romulan subsect culture called the Jat Vaj, which loosely translates as stupid. And it was just it's just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Oh my god. This sci-fi shipyard. Why would you waste your talents talking about new Trek? It's shit. And Cell replies with, sci-fi shipyards, it's group therapy session. I couldn't agree more. I wanted to do a stream because talking about some of the things that I dislike about new Trek, and some of the things that occasionally I did like. I just wanted to have a conversation about new Trek in general, because there's stuff that I've not been able to cover. I've just not had the time to do the reviews for Picard season 1 and go back and do more reviews, and it's just stuff that I've missed. So yeah. Oh my god, I forgot about Elnor as well. So yeah, Romulans need saving. Synths have gone nuts. There's a synthetic life form ban, and then you've got these two sisters who are androids. And they were created by a process called fractal neuronic cloning. And it turns out that there's a whole planet of androids who were created by the biological son of Noonien Soong. That son's played by Brent Spiner, of course. I mean, come on. Really? Fucking really? Soong had a biological... I thought he created Data-in-Law because he couldn't have children. Or he just didn't have time to have children. But he had a son. I'm sure it was his son. Anyway, doesn't matter. So the Zhat Vash are against all synthetic life because they had this vision of and it was all stock footage. they used stock footage in this vision thing, and they all ended up, the members of the Zhat Vash all ended up bashing their own heads in with rocks, which was unnecessary as well. Because they saw something, they saw that this artificial intelligence from another dimension was going to come in and exterminate all life. So they are very much against the synthetic life. So the Romulans, whose star is about to go nova and apparently destroy the Romulan Star Empire, sabotaged the efforts of Starfleet to rescue them by sending all the synths bonkers and murdering a bunch of people and getting the Federation to ban the synthetics before the rescue armada got sent to rescue the Romulans, which made absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. It was absolutely god awful dog shite. Hi, I'm Sci-Fi Shipyards, and I have watched New Trek. It touched me here and here. Yep. Yeah, that's what we're doing. I once posted a video to YouTube about the theory that all the Soongs since Arik are clones. Interesting. Nice one, Clayton. Hi, I'm Zell, and I've watched New Trek. Michael Barrymore's pool party gave me less trauma than New Trek. Oh, dear. I'm not laughing at that. Not on stream. I have a public image to maintain. Yeah, so Picard season 1 made no sense because the Romulans... The Romulans were stupid. And it was the episode where Picard beams down and the Romulans make him feel bad for not doing enough, even though he sacrificed his career, which is what I don't understand why Starfleet would accept his resignation in the first place. There's no reason for Starfleet to accept his resignation. He firmly believes that rescuing the Romulans is necessary, even though it's not, because the Romulans should be able to rescue themselves at this point. And what kind of allies do the Romulans have? The Romulans must have allies on the other side of Romulan space. I mean, come on. We're talking about a highly advanced civilization here. But the Romulans trying to make Picard feel bad, but Picard gave up he's resigned his commission, and Starfleet accepted his resignation. Starfleet has become this xenophobic, isolationist organization ran almost exclusively by women, which is fine, but really. And I'm sorry, but you remember, was it Commodore O, the Vulcan who was clearly a Romulan and not a Vulcan in any way? She's wearing those sunglasses when she goes to see Jurati. That was hilarious. That was beyond hilarious. It was so incredibly funny. And Jurati murdering Bruce. Oh God. Bruce Maddox, beg your pardon. Murdering Bruce Maddox in cold blood, and then getting away with it, and becoming a member of the crew in the end. Nothing made sense, did it? Nothing about Picard season 1 made sense. And then they decided to up the ante with season 2. Season 2 of Star Trek Picard was beyond absurd. And it had such a promising first episode. And I really have to admit, I got sucked into that one. Big time. I think it's why season 3 didn't affect me too much, because I'd learned from it at that point. But the season 2 of Picard was just beyond ridiculous and made no sense whatsoever. No sense whatsoever. And Picard season 2 started off quite optimistic, didn't it, really? I mean, you had Raffi, the worst character in New Trek, second only to Michael Burnham. She was back in Starfleet, and she was the science officer. First officer? No, she was a science. She was some sort of officer on the new Excelsior. And you got Admiral Picard, who was shown respect by people. He was respected. You know, again, they listened to some of the gripes that we had, and he was suddenly revered and respected. Enter Q, who came and slapped him and told him how stupid he was. And then at the end of the season said, "I love you." You know, and they have this love. Even though, you know, oh god, season 2 is such a mess that it's going to be really hard to explain. But season 2 was awful. Patrick, the Gremlin Vulcans with sunglasses was Vulcan with sunglasses was hilarious. Oh my god. Eleanor was a loser. Yeah. Women running Starfleet and everything goes to pot. Imagine my shock. That's a bit harsh. What I loved about Star Trek, it was its diversity, but the fact that it didn't shove that diversity in your face. You know, you had Admiral Nechayev, who was, I think, a very well-written admiral. She was snarky, and there was something about her. She was crass and fairly brittle. Not brittle. You know, she was rough and jagged, and you know, her character was really awesome. I loved Nechayev. I thought she was such a sass. I loved her. And you could write women. Women could be in these commanding roles and command respect and get it. Picard, you just had them there because women rule, apparently. So I mean, is the Federation not the easiest thing to infiltrate in News Track? It's so easy to infiltrate, isn't it? Like, really seriously easy. It's like you got Commodore O and her sidekick lieutenant are both bad guys. And not members of Starfleet at all. Or they were members of Starfleet, but they're the secret Romulans, but they're posing as Vulcans. But they don't look like Vulcans, they look more like Romulans. You got Picard with his Romulan servants, and they were servants, with however you put it. You know, who just happens to be ex-members of the Tal Shiar. And you got you had the machine that reads the past in the room with the molecules. That was hilariously bad. You got all these elements. And this show just makes it so bad. So bad. You know what this means? We need Old Man Picard voice. Raffi is a bad character. I think all of them suck. Yeah, I mean... Would I have an interesting character in Star Trek Picard? Season 1. Let's go for season 1, shall we? Let's get comfy. Comfy and go for season 1. A good character in Star Trek Picard season 1. Riker. Okay, there we go. Only a little bit of Riker. Only a little bit. The whole Picard data thing was weird. Like, Picard wants to collect data in his mouth. Oh, well, thanks for that. Yeah, Picard loved Data, and Data loved Picard. You know, I love you, sir. I love you. And I mean, Data's death was done in Nemesis, and it was pretty much done at this point. You know, he was dead. But they managed to... The graft with B4 didn't take, but then it did, but then it didn't in a kind of way, in a small way. And I don't know. The worst news is we've still got Star Trek Academy to come. Kill me now and get it over with. Don't watch it. I'll take the hit for you. I promise you, I will take the hit for you if it does happen to be made. think we've got a bit of a delay with things lately. Starfleet Academy, I've forgotten about that. Damn it all. Hugh, but they killed him, didn't they? Yeah, Hugh! Oh my god, Clayton, I completely forgot about Hugh. Oh, they brought back Hugh. Hugh, not Q. They did Q in the second season, but Hugh of Borg. They brought back Hugh and then they killed him. Oh my god. I can't believe I forgot about Hugh. Poor Hugh. But that's not Hugh. Thanks, Danger Man. Yeah, I'll like I say, mate, I'll take the hit. That's not a problem. What's with the inability to just accept Data died? I don't know. I think the burnt tomato was the best character. Yeah. Yeah, God. Hugh, man. Jeez. So they killed Echep. They killed Hugh. They made 7 of 9 the Borg Queen temporarily. And then in season 2 they brought the Borg Queen back. And it was a seriously bad season of television, season 2. I might watch season 2 again, and I'm not requiring the straight jacket just yet, but I might watch season 2 again just you know, when you have to watch something again just to be sure you've seen it, and you know, reality has to kick in. Have I seen? Did that really happen the way it was? The way it said? I mean, if I didn't have my reviews to sort of remind me, you know, as I'm scrolling up on my YouTube, going, yes, I did do a review for that. I don't know. I'd honestly think I dreamt Picard season 2. Starfleet Academy has Tawny Newsome Mariner as one of the writers. Enjoy watching that, Danger Man. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. I feel like I've signed the contract here before reading the fine print. Anyways, what it does do is make me appreciate the old stuff even more. I've just reread the book Serpents Among the Ruins. Bloody awesome. Yep, it really does make you appreciate the older stuff. So Picard season 2. What happens? What's the plot? What is the plot? And I can't answer this. There is no plot. It's a garbled mess, is what it is. So let me see if I can do a relatively short, long form. And that's an oxymoron, but it doesn't matter because the entirety of season 2 of Picard is an oxymoron. Let me see if I can break it down for you. A Borg ship comes through a doodad, and you have a fleet of starships after some nonsensical bullshit with Picard and you know, a relatively optimistic outlook. And the Borg, a Borg Queen or a Borg, hacks into the fleet and ends up destroying it. Well, it's at that point, Picard's on that ship, it's at that point that Picard wakes up in a seemingly different timeline and sees Q. Q comes back, and I was so looking forward to seeing a bit of Q. And they did exactly what I predicted they would do. If you go back and watch one of my videos, I can't remember what it is, I said they de-age Q just for one scene where he catches up with Picard and says, "Oh, Picard, you've become old," and snaps his fingers and becomes old. By the by, that's not the point. And he's in this alternate universe, this alternate timeline. Him and his crew are there, and this is like a free therapy session, isn't it? It really is like a therapy session. And Q's brought him to this future, this alternate timeline, because of one decision that was made, that Picard made, that made everything bad and made Picard this horrible dictator. And Q leaves them, and they have to go back in time to a point where they realised the timeline changed. Now, again, I might be misremembering this. I don't know. It doesn't feel reason. It doesn't feel like it actually happened. It doesn't feel real. So they had to go back in time to the point where they think the Q changed the timeline, because Q changed something. A decision that Picard made, Q changed it, or something. Q changed something in the past. And then it becomes really confusing, because they go back in time using the sun going back in time thing from the voyage home, and I think one of the original series episodes. And it's during a launch of a ship that goes to Mars, which is piloted by Rene Picard, one of Picard's ancestors. And there's this gobbledygook mess of complete contrivance and supremely bad writing that leads into the majority of season 2, which is set in our time, just for budget reasons and, you know, conveniences and everything. Oh, damn, that's perfect. Oh, I love tea. So one thing leads to another, and it's been a while since I've watched it. One thing leads to another, and Jurati ends up getting assimilated by the Borg Queen, which they got from the alternative timeline, because in the alternative timeline future, the Federation's defeated the Borg, and the Borg Queen is on trial, and Picard, instead of shooting the Borg Queen, kidnaps the Borg Queen, and then they go back in time, and the Borg Queen is in the past with them, and assimilates Jurati, and Jurati becomes the new Borg Queen, who then goes to the Delta Quadrant, or something, and she becomes the queen of a subset of Borg that want to help the Federation beat a spatial anomaly in the future. And that's why she needed to take over the ships. She didn't destroy the ships. Picard set the auto-destruct on the ships, blew the fleet up, but it's revealed it back in the future, when they go back to the future, that Picard, that Jurati of Borg was there with this Borg armada to help the Federation seal an anomaly, or point an energy discharge at this anomaly and seal it up, or stabilize it before it destroyed the galaxy, the way things tend to destroy the galaxy in season 3 of Picard. And yeah, Clayton's quite rightly pointed out, told me not to forget 10 Forward Street, because Guinan is in the past, and she's in the past as Guinan, young Guinan, younger than Whoopi Goldberg Guinan, obviously, different actress as well, and she owns a bar on 10 Forward Street, or 10 Forward Avenue, or whatever it is, and that's supposed to be some quippy reference to the bar on the Enterprise, which was only called 10 Forward because it was on deck 10 of the Enterprise, and it was forward of the ship. Okay, it was at the front of the ship. It was called 10 Forward because it was deck 10 forward. But we're led to believe that she named the bar 10 Forward, and because she had a bar on Earth called that was on 10 Forward Street, and it was called 10 Forward. Oh, fucking shit and shovel fucking hell. Oh, Matt Stuttgart, good night, mate. I apologise for boring you so much you had to go to bed. Good night, my friend. Thank you so much for stopping by. It's great to have you here, as always. So that's Picard season 2. And I can't even say in a nutshell, because that wasn't a nutshell, because it's not complete yet. It's not complete. It's season 2. That nutshell, I can't close it. It's horrendous. It's so bad. I mean, there were so many things that the Picard in a coma, that was hilarious, with his dad. I mean, he got all these problems with his dad having been so abusive to his mum, and him misunderstanding the reasons why he was supposedly abusive to his mum. And he spends most of his life going, my father was a monster. An absolute monster. You. He even says to him in his waking dream coma thing. Even says, "You were relentless." And he has such vitriol and vile hatred for his father. And then 5 minutes later, after he realizes the truth, he actually says to him, "Perhaps I've judged you too harshly." Do you think however many years of that he'd suddenly switch on a dime? Of course not. Of course not. It was so unbelievably stupid. You had the Borg in the cornfield, not the cornfield, the vineyard that couldn't shoot for shit, and you got Seven and Raffi going all John Wick on them. And you got the Borg soldiers with machine guns. Oh my god, it's all coming back to me. It's like reopening a wound and reliving a nightmare. It's horrible. Young Q aging was probably the best scene of the season. I completely agree, Clayton. Completely agree. The reason that Manu in Hiromi, yes, Manu was replaced as Icheb in Picard was down to his comments about Kevin Spacey, which they rewrote the scripts to kill him off. As a result, so much toxicity. Yeah, I completely. Yep, that is 100%. Oh god, remember how they made assimilation this orgasmic process where you had to be flooded with endorphins? I'd forgotten about that. And the singing. Yeah, shit. I'm not sure I want to go back and rewatch this. I'd forgotten about that. Oh yeah, she sings. She bursts into song. This blonde bint bursts into song in the middle of a gala, and no security stop her. Oh my god, it was horrible. It was awful. Shit, I see the point in this now. I didn't realise how much I needed to talk about it. Guess that's post-traumatic stress for you. Shit, we are. Yeah, you're right. It is. It's. Oh god. Young Guinan complains about racial issue, but had no problem hanging out with the slave owners in exclusive venues in 1800s. Yeah, they didn't do their homework on that one, did they? Borg Queen has Jurati break into song to assimilate her, makes her eat batteries. The battery eating. Yeah, that was a subject of some of my addendums, that was. Then Q dies while being vaguely gay for Picard. Then the vagina-shaped Borg ship closes a hole. I like you, Jackie. You're funny. To be fair, Jackie, after season 2, I wanted to eat batteries. Yeah. Oh yeah, Lieutenant Decane from Voyager being Fox Mulder. Yeah. Oh yes, Clayton, you're not wrong. And again, our discussion about Picard, where we we said that wouldn't it have been just incredibly intelligent of them to make him a temporal agent, the same one from Relativity? No, I can't do that. It's far too original. Well, it's not original. It's far too clever to do that. God damn it. There's so many stupid things I forgot. And yeah, Duquesne the Fox Mulder type he had a close encounter with some Vulcans, didn't he? And Picard tries to say, did they touch you like this? I fucking remember now. It was horrible. Season 2 was an absolute mess, and it made no sense by the end of it, and their conclusion to me was terrible. Now, what I can't get my head around, and this is something that I'm really struggling with, is the fact that people like this. And I don't like to put people into categories, these people are just people who, they're noobs to the Star Trek, they're normies and stuff like that. They liked these stories, but it's because they're either disconnected from the franchise completely, or they are They just don't care. Or they hate Star Trek and they want you to hate it too. I don't know. I just hate that. Stepan, how are you? Hello, all. I see you guys want to depress by talking New Trek. Actually, it has been described. The stream has been described by my various subscribers as a group therapy session. So, welcome to the group therapy session. Who knew? Who knew you could get therapy on YouTube? Show me on the doll where the Vulcans touch you. Absolutely right, Clayton. Yeah, absolutely right. They didn't. They just didn't watch any episodes beforehand. They couldn't. They couldn't make any clever cross references. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. They don't put any effort in at all, do they? No effort in whatsoever. Oh, I better drink my tea before it goes cold. Oh, God, that was such a terrible season of television. And I liked John Delancey. I liked seeing him in Q. He nailed it as Q. He nailed it as Q. He had the presence of Q. He had... there was nothing about Delancey's performance that varied in any to any other Q performance. He was Q. It's just he was so badly written as Q. In this show, he was so... It was just so horrible to see, was it not? That they gave him nothing to work with, and they gave him a story that made no fucking sense whatsoever. No sense. That's what really gets me lamenting our species. People out there actually love this shit Discovery Picard Season 1 and 2. That alone makes me think that we're doomed. It doesn't give me the greatest amount of confidence that we're heading in the right direction either. But yeah, John Delancey's Q nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. But unfortunately, he nailed it into a piece of balsa wood. In my opinion, all they know about Star Trek is Borg, Q, and Spock. Yeah, well, yeah, they certainly don't know it's a science fiction show, do they? Excuse me. Horrible season. The new writers from modern audiences, yeah, absolutely. Shall we get to Picard Season 3? The oddball season. Caused a few YouTubers to fall out with Danger Man before even liking Danger Man. So, Picard Season 3. We got word that Picard Season 3 was good. Several YouTubers had come to light and said, this is actually really good. Season 3 is really good. And Season 3 was filmed off the back of Season 2, or it was filmed alongside Season 2. And it was had a different showrunner this time called Terry Matalas. And Terry Matalas is Star Trek alum, and he is a somewhat fan of Star Trek. He's a big geek, like us. If we must. Yeah, if we must. We heard that it was going to be good. Some sources said it was going to be good. And there were elements of Season 3 of Picard that were good. There were elements of Season 3 of Picard that were bad. And there were elements of Season 3 of Picard that were just nostalgia bait. And turns out those elements were actually the majority of what consisted of Season 3. Season 3 of Picard was I felt an unnecessary story to tell. Borrowing a lot from other shows. Again, not a problem necessarily. It needed 2 in some respects to pay homage to what came before. But I didn't. I was optimistic about Picard season 3, and I was trying to be as fair and balanced as possible until I hit episode 6. And episode 6 was interesting because it was the most member-berry heavy episode I'd ever seen of any show ever. It had so much nostalgia bait in it, and I think that the way that it was marketed, and it was marketed to these YouTube reviewers, and they got to see the 6 episodes, and they no doubt binged those 6 episodes. And I've said in my previous reviews that that may have altered the way they viewed Picard season 3, because they binged it, and it was just nostalgia hit, and then episode 6 was like the big finish that wasn't the big finish. And I greened my light for Star Trek Picard, which I never thought I'd do. I greened my light because I felt that wave of nostalgia and the amount of endorphins going around my brain when I did that review. I was positively giddy. And then I watched it again, and I started thinking along different lines. I started thinking, okay, take the bit that you enjoyed the most, which is the nostalgia and seeing all the ships again and all of that. Take all that out of it for a moment. What have you got? And the answer was a weak story, and it was a really weak story, and a lot of things didn't make sense. And I think it was more of a love letter to real fans of Star Trek than it was a good story. And you say, oh, love letter. You think love letter. Of course, you think these are the voyages by from Enterprise. That was a poison love letter. And I think Picard season 3 had such. It had the potential to tell a good story, not necessarily a necessary story, but a good story. And it didn't really pull it off, because ultimately it was all about those member berries. It was ultimately about that, and that made it a bad season of television. It made it a bad season of Star Trek, but it made it a good nostalgia dive, a good nostalgia romp. It also made me not so popular with, as I've said, certain YouTubers, and it made me not so popular with some of my subscribers. I lost a fair few subs with my Picard season 3 reviews. I was just trying to be as honest as I could, and I did get some backlash from people who were saying that I just want to be negative about the show, and it's not really that, and it's not me overusing the term fan service or member berries and nostalgia bait, but when that's the that's the core element of a season of television, is simply to bait people with nostalgia to watch your show, then there's a problem there, isn't there? If that's all you've got. And I think that's all that they had. I didn't think it was a good story, and I don't think it needed to be told. It was full of contrivance, it was full of convenience, and it was quite simply unnecessary. And I've mentioned many times about New Trek's obsession with the colour red door, red signals, red matter, or just red everywhere, and it gets a little bit tiresome. Let's do some comments. It's all streaming. I bet the ratings are bad. Yeah, Memberberry season. Stepan, you're right, absolutely right. Looking back, it wasn't as awful, but retrospectively, wasn't great. Yeah, precisely. Season 3 still horrible, bad, just not that offensive. Yeah, it's a fair point. I agree in some respects. Yeah, I do agree with that. It was the water Cracker fed to us after years of eating poop. So by comparison, yeah, and I think that's where I was heading in my reviews. Is okay, yeah, I got a little carried away with the nostalgia, and you know a lot of people undoubtedly did, but ultimately it was the least offensive season of Star Trek Picard, and probably new Trek in general. I did like the return of the Enterprise D. I did not like the fact that it was restored to the unrefit Enterprise D or the pre-refit Enterprise D, and I don't necessarily. I don't think it was necessary to resurrect the D. I know that they would have had to have gotten the saucer off of Viridian 3 for obvious reasons, because if the inhabitants of Viridian 3 eventually develop a way to get to another planet, and if they get big enough telescopes, they're going to see this giant source of alien saucer on a planet. That's not going to be good for the Prime Directive. But I can understand why they did it. I don't think it was necessary, but it was a nice addition to it, I suppose, in some respects. I cannot understand that Star Trek fans actually loved season 3 and watched it over and over again. I could hardly watch it. I watched it once. I watched the first episode twice, and I have not watched it since, because I don't feel the need to. I don't really find it that interesting as a season. Story-wise, I did not find it interesting whatsoever. There was nothing inherently interesting about it. You know, so he had a few quippy lines from Worf and Riker and stuff like that. And Data coming back was reasonably well explained, but it just didn't fill me with enough interest. I just didn't enjoy. I just wouldn't enjoy it again if I watched it. I know I wouldn't. I'd be kind of like, show me the highlights reel, you know. Regardless of whether you like season 3 or not, it's too little, too late. Exactly, Izal, you're bang on there. It is too little, too late. Too late. I can't say that name. HLB Coma. I'm just gonna say HLB Coma. Tell me if it's any different. Terry Metallic. Hello, my friend. Again, welcome to the stream. Terry Metalis is the Dave Filoni of Star Trek, and vice versa. They are both hacks living off nostalgia with zero creativity of their own. Kind of agree with you there. I wouldn't necessarily call Metalis a hack. I would say that he probably got as creative as he could with what he'd been handed to him. But again, I don't know too much about Terry Metalis, so I may have to take other people's word on that. I mean, the whole build-up with the Changelings. Oh, God, I forgot about the Changelings. How did I skip the Changelings? Yeah, the Changelings. The Dominion, the leaders of the Dominion. The founders of the Dominion. One of the biggest threats to Starfleet. Were used by the Borg, by the way. Oh yeah, it's just Yoda's people, and they were used by the Borg. The Borg used them. The Borg Queen used them. How? The Changelings were masters of a organization that endured for 1,000 years. The Changelings would never allow themselves to be used by the Borg. Fucking hell. Oh, God. Ugh. I mean... Oh, no. Anyone else seen any photos of Terry Metalis? He literally has exactly the same facial expression in each and every one. I think it may actually be a cardboard cutout. Did you all imagine if it was just a cardboard cutout of Terry Metalis everywhere? How did he write that show? Well, the cardboard cutout wrote it. This feels like Confessions of a Broken Star Trek Heart. It kind of is. kind of is, but it's for everybody. This is a free session on YouTube to express our disdain and all the hurty feelings that Star New Trek has caused. I wanted to do this bit for a while, and again, I'll probably do another stream on it. But it's just fun to talk about. New Trek's fun to poke at, I suppose, in some respects. Although it does hurt a little bit. It is cathartic, yeah. Talos Filoni comparison, yes. Acclaim Rumley. They could have had the season end with the kids getting assigned to the USS Picard so that the series could continue the name and get back to post Voyager Star Trek. Yeah, completely agree there, mate. Good. It was a good pitch, that one. Heck, Q could have turned his son loose on the next generation to teach them lessons. Missed opportunity. And isn't that kind of the same as most of Star Trek, most of New Trek? It's all missed opportunities. Even Star Wars, massive missed opportunities there. Red Matter is very much a J.J. Abrams thing. Yeah, it is. And it also, does that not point to the same people being in charge? You know, say, the people have said to me in comments in the past on my videos that J.J. Abrams has nothing to do with Star Trek now. Secret Hideout and Bad Robot are not in control of New Trek. It's debunked. It's completely debunked. But okay, so why are most of the creative ideas, I say creative ideas, of J.J. Abrams' universe imported into New Trek? There's the same people are involved. It's the same shit over and over again. Stepan, they killed Data and now all they do is trying to bring him back in some way. Why kill him in the first place? Exactly. Let's never forget. Who's this, Steph? Hi, mate. Let's never forget Burnham out-logicked a brig computer into freeing her. And can mental Skype Spock's father, which Spock can't do. Steps. You're a stepsister, is it? She's a sister. God. Made a Spock sister. I can't believe they did that. I enjoyed Picard's mentioning of the carpets on the D. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, there were a few moments which were good. They were just okay, you know. They weren't too bad at all. But I needed more. I would have preferred the E return. The ship deserves more love. It does. I love the Enterprise E. I think what a beautifully sleek ship that is. I've got a model of the D and a model of the E. I had a model of the E. Sorry. But I like the fact that they referenced the E, but they didn't tell us what happened to the E. They only they inferred something that happened. I'm calling it. Making the Titan into the Enterprise G was a shit call. Thank you. I completely agree. That was a terrible decision. Terrible decision. What a shit show. Let's make the flagship of a Federation like a really old ship. Let's rename a ship and make it the Enterprise. I'm sorry, but when the original Enterprise was destroyed by Kirk at Genesis, and then we had a whole movie before we saw the new ship. They built a new ship from scratch. Well, no, actually, I think it read it somewhere that they built a new ship and then they renamed it to the Enterprise. It was originally going to be something else. But why take an old ship and rename it? Why not just commission a new ship? Fuck. Hell. Oh, it's nuts. That was their opportunity to give us a 3-nacelled Enterprise from All Good Things, and they wasted it, yeah? For me, E is the best one. There's some guy. I stopped watching Picard not even halfway through season 1. I still can't believe Patrick Stewart went along with the destruction of Picard as a character. Sheer fucking hubris. Yeah. Well, Patrick Stewart was responsible for it. He didn't go along with it. With all due respect, he was responsible for it. He had creative involvement in that show. He wrote in the story about Picard's mother and all of that just because he wanted it to match his life. Patrick Stewart's got no time for the Picard character. He retired him. And he only bought it back for money. He doesn't care about Jean-Luc Picard as a character. He never did. And, you know, can we expect these actors to have respect for their characters? No. Because they're there collecting a paycheck. There are very few people in this world, very few actors that actually respect their characters. Patrick Stewart, I don't think has any time for Picard. I like season 3, but on rewatch you notice the holes a lot more. Metalis made a good attempt making lemonade with shit lemons. Yeah, that's quite a good analogy, really. Season 3 was a lazy story, bad writing, member berries, mystery boxes. I hate mystery boxes. I'm so tired of that format of storytelling. It's really stupid. I fast forward most of the final episode. I was so bored I didn't care. Hashtag Doomcock was right. I like Doomcock. He's funny. I don't know what I thought of him when I first saw one of his YouTube videos. I thought, oh, there's a dude in a mask and he's talking like this, Harvey. And what is this? I'm Victor Don I don't know, I can't say it. Von Doomcock or something. Speaking to you from the center of Earth. I didn't know what the hell to make of him, but I love his videos. They are so funny. What a crazy guy. But yeah, Doomcock was right in some respects, and I would, if they did a Picard highlights reel of season 3, I'd probably watch that. You know, I wouldn't want to get too involved in it. And like I say, going round again to watch season 3, I think would be painful. I hated the stupidest cut hands to communicate. Oh, yeah, that was funny. I hated that the F was decommissioned, and I could tell the Star Trek Online devs weren't happy. They stopped promoting the show and even stated on a live stream that they are going to do their own thing. That's tragic, isn't it? You can't go wrong with an E-Type Enterprise. Patrick stated that he has never actually watched a TNG episode. It wouldn't surprise me if he hadn't. That whole soap opera premise of here is your long lost son at 90 years old was ridiculous. Yeah. It was. They tried. Metalis did one thing. He combined elements of Star Trek and stories and put them together in one season, including all the member berries, all the little musical scores and format, and the visual styles and everything like that. And he Kirkified Picard, giving him a son that he's an absent father, just like Kirk. They just borrowed it from Kirk. And again, it was just derivative, and the quality wasn't really that great, was it? It was Patrick Stewart who specifically stated that he would only return in season 1 Picard if they didn't feature any of the rest of the crew. Dick move, absolutely, and it made me lose a little bit of respect for old Pat Stewart. To be fair, I am biased, and I love the F. It's been the Enterprise on Star Trek Online since 2011. We got to know the crew. Fun fact, O'Brien's son is the chief engineer. I didn't know that. I really got to play Star Trek Online. I hate that Patrick Stewart forgot how to play Picard because he wanted the show to be more like theatre melodrama. Yeah, well, Picard isn't Picard anymore, is he? Just another watch nerd. Also, Ed Spielers does not look like a dude in his 20s. It was bizarre that he was meant to be 25-ish, Yeah. He did well, though, didn't he? He's a good actor. I mean, Picard season 3 was It was a sweet disappointment. That's the only way I can describe it. It was a sweet disappointment. It was. It could have been so much more. There was quantity to a degree. There was some quality and some of the things that we really loved, but it was pretty poor. Let's not lie. It was pretty poor. Mike Kess, how? Yeah, well, how big will Tilly be in season 5? I suppose we'll have to wait and see. Again, I don't really go into sizes of people. I'd have something to say if if she was Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, roly poly down the stairs, sort of, sort of size. I would think maybe maybe Sick Bay would have a few words with her. Tilly, we need to talk about your weight. You're starting to affect gravity. I'm not going to go down that road. Patrick went the same way as George Takei, got to 70 and turned into a complete bellend. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Picard was depressing in terms of a general overall experience. Star Trek Picard was depressing. There was nothing really bright and optimistic. It set up a good. Tilly will be the ship in season 5. I'm not going there. I'll get demonetized. No. Didn't Tilly leave the academy? I hope the new show won't be focused around her. Oh God, can you imagine? Oh, Jesus, a Tilly Star Trek show. Tilly can only enter Starfleet headquarters for space. Oh God, I'm not even. Anyway, back to Picard. I think Picard was yeah, it was disappointing, very disappointing, and quite at times insulting, I think, to Star Trek fans. So I go on. HLB Coma. I honestly can't wait for Discovery to be back. Imagine the stupidity. It will be a failure of epic proportions. I can't wait myself for Discovery to return for its 5th and final season. I do think it's going to be epic, but not for the reasons that the people who make it think it's going to be epic. And I'm not exactly sure what Sonequa Martin Green will do after this. After Discovery. Discovery, I think, was very assistive in killing a franchise. Certainly, any prospects of it becoming a new version of a franchise. Anyway. Shall we talk about Strange New Worlds? I've been prattling on now for nearly 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'm going to keep prattling on about Strange New Worlds. We have hit Strange New Worlds. Take a deep breath. Strange New Worlds was going to be a new kind of Star Trek. Episodic Star Trek. And it was going to tell the tale pre-Cage. Not Cage, but pre the Cage. Was it pre the Cage or post the Cage? Pre original series. Either way, it was going to tell. It was a prequel, another prequel, starring Anson Mount as Captain Pike from Star Trek Discovery season 2, and season 2 of Star Trek Discovery was widely received as awesome only because of Anson Mount. Stepan, Captain Pike is actually the ship's steward. Just another watch nurse. £5 super chat to go towards the therapy bill needed after watching Discovery Season 5 and Starfleet Academy. Just to watch another watch nerd, everybody. Thank you so much for that super chat. £5. Wow. And that's to go towards therapy bills. Thank you very much, sir. To be honest with you, I'm happy to provide this little therapy session, and I shall provide as many more as needed, and they shall be free. I shall not, it's just bad, isn't it? When we have to do things like this to get everything off our chest about bad Star Trek. So thank you very much for that. That's very much appreciated. Yeah, Strange New Worlds. It's the guy with the hair. Yeah, Strange New Worlds. Meant to be episodic, so it was being helmed by Akiva Goldsman, whose track record had been just shit so far. So we had no reason to trust that this would be any different. And Strange New Worlds. My review of the first episode of Strange New Worlds is one of my biggest and most viewed videos. I got roasted. Absolutely roasted. It brought in a whole new audience. It opened my channel to a new audience. And I got absolutely raked over the coals. Because I said that Strange New Worlds, Episode 1, missed the point. And it was not a popular opinion. It wasn't a popular opinion at all. At all. And I couldn't understand it at the time. And I was still bitter from Picard. And I tried to be fair and balanced with Strange New Worlds after the first episode. And I made some comment about a single... a ship with a nacelle, a single nacelle and a body and everything, and I said that looks absolutely ridiculous. And you know, it's been in Star Trek before, it's been in Star Trek Online, and it has made appearances, and it is an official class of starship. I said it would look ridiculous, and I said, what is their fascination with this ship? Now I got all sorts of crap about that, but I panned the show a little bit because I thought, well, it's not really doing anything new. And it wasn't doing anything new. There was nothing new about Strange New Worlds when it came out. And it turned out to be the trend, did it not, for the rest of the series. There was nothing new. There was no Strange New Worlds being explored. It was just about the Gorn, you know. And the characters annoyed the hell out of me. I mean, you had Big Hair Pike. You had Rebecca Romaine, number 1. And Rebecca Romaine is a beautiful woman. Is she not just absolutely gorgeous? But I think she doesn't fit. She kind of did in Discovery as number 1. There was a little bit of mystery there, but I didn't think she fit very well. Anyway. They took number 1 in a completely different direction. Spock was... It's not Spock, is it? Let's be honest, it's not Spock. It's Ethan Peck pretending to be Spock. It doesn't feel like Spock at all. You had Uhura, who is a young cadet at this point. And you had... our favourite belter. Now, I called her. I called Noonien Singh. What's her name? I've forgotten her name. Oh shit! I've forgotten her name. What's her name? Oh, God. just Belter drummer. Just call her Belter drummer. I'm having brain fog. I'm getting tired. We had the Belter drummer, and I said she looks like drummer from The Expanse because of the way her hair was, and it was a similar look. And I always thought that drummer had one of those faces of just pure disgust. She always had, not the face in general, but the look on her face was always one of complete disgust with everything she was looking at. And I thought the same thing about La'an. Thank you. I didn't see the chat. If you put La'an, discount drummer. Yeah, no one's put La'an. Yay for memory. La'an, Noonien Singh. Which they have to have. Every new Trek episode, every new Trek series has to have a hard on for Khan, a Khan on, because she's related to Khan Noonien Singh, of course. So you got La'an Noonien Singh. You got Hema, who's the Andorian, or he's an Anar. Is he an Anar? He might be an Anar, which is the blind subset of Andorians. He's not Andorian. I think he's an Enar. Anyway, you got him, and I hated him in the first episode I saw him, and then I really thought he was a great character after that. I really warmed to him as a character. It was really good. And then you went through. You got Hema, and you got discount Jim Kirk or Jim Carrey. And I'm sorry, but the resemblance is uncanny between New Kirk and Jim Carrey. They are similar wing, it's just weird. He's an Enar. Yeah, thank you. It's just weird. And some people went, oh yeah, I can really see that when I pointed it out on my reviews. And other people went, what are you talking about? He looks nothing like Jim Carrey. I thought, he's almost a dead ringer for him. There's someone on the wing. So, it's kind of a motley crew. And you got Erica Ortegas. Erica Ortegas. Horrible character. Talks back to the captain all the time. Quippy and edgy and oh god, just a complete ridiculous moron. But she's amazing and she flies the ship. You got this tangled motley crew, who are the crew of the Enterprise, and they're supposed to be going to strange new worlds and seeking out new life and new civilizations. And there's not an awful lot you can do with a prequel. And exploring strange new worlds. Not really, is there? Sci-fi shipyards. My battery is about to die. It must have been some Borg bint sucking on it. Gotta beam out of here, guys. Thanks, DM, for the therapy. Thanks, Sci-fi Shipyards. It's great to have you here, as usual. Zell Pike's stylist is the same guy who did Johnny Bravo's hair. Absolutely. Had such high hopes for Strange New Worlds, says Mystic Librarian. Started okay and then went downhill. Yeah. Strange New Worlds, on paper, sounded good, but in execution, we just got more of the same. Honeypot of a series, says Zell. Yeah. Mike Kess, Strange New Worlds, Klingons have evolved and are auto-tuned now. We're getting there. We're getting there. A musical episode made me actually consider a solution. I'm not saying that. Clayton Rumley, discount drummer, absolutely. Discount drummer. He's named Stevie Wonder of Andorians. Yeah. Had no problem. Oh, gotta run. Great stream as always. Live long and prosper. Thank you very much, Clayton. Thank you so much for coming by. Good friend of the channel, Clayton Rumley. I hope you're okay and look after yourself, sir. It's good to have you here as always. I had no problem with most cast, but Ortegas annoyed me so much. She was just so cringe. Yeah, Ortegas was terrible. Nitpicking Nerd pointed it out too. Can't be unseen. Yeah, exactly. I assume that's with regards to Jim Carrey, Captain Jim Carrey. Enterprise was a great prequel. It can be done, yes, because there's enough room 100 years before Kirk to put a good amount of lore in, isn't there? Lore, Lore, not Law, but there's a good chunk of time there. You can play with a lot of things. You know that there's a Romulan war in there somewhere, although Enterprise didn't officially actually get there. There's loads of foundational work that you can do. But a few years before Kirk, you haven't got a freaking chance. You have to put roots into something. Underneath the roots of something. Very close to the start of where Star Trek started. Now, you can do it so far behind because it can have very little effect on it. It can boost the tree of Star Trek, but it won't directly affect it. But you're talking about putting something in so damn close to the original series that you have to be so careful how you go about writing it and what you choose to retcon. So, Strange New Worlds, I am saying it officially here, is a soft reboot of the original series. It has to be because it doesn't follow canon of the original series at all, especially with the introduction of the Gorn. Now, the Gorn in this, I can say I've seen the Gorn in the original series when I watched it originally, and I've seen the Gorn in Enterprise, the Mirror Universe episode, which I thought was great with the Gorn. These Gorn are horror Gorn, and they had the Alien versus Predator episode from season 1, which I absolutely adored. Now, you see my screen vibrate then? That's my phone vibrating. Yeah, they had the AVP episode, didn't they? Which had elements of all these 80s action films. And again, it can be done if it's done right. You can be derivative and you can make a great story, but they didn't. And they ended up killing Hemmer in that episode, if I'm not too much mistaken, which did piss me off as well. So they did this massively derivative episode, which was an Aliens ripoff. But they also with the Gorn, they made them meet them far too early. That's why it is a soft reboot. If it's a soft reboot, it doesn't have to listen to canon, does it? And they made a bunch of silly little errors and silly little mistakes, and then season 2 came around. And it seems like those mistakes got amplified. It seemed like those mistakes were a lot worse. I mean, it can't just be me. They were twice as intense. And then we got to the musical episode. Well, I thought the musical episode was shockingly bad, but the Lower Decks crossover was jumping the shark big time. Was it not? It was really felt so out of place. And it felt like the show hadn't earned the musical episode at all. The show hadn't enough goodwill to carry it out. I'm starting to lose my voice now. The musical episode was a stupid story. Didn't need to be told. Didn't need to exist at all. It was just an excuse to do a musical. The cast didn't look like they really wanted to do it. Some of them. You know, the dance choreography was crap. The background dancers were awful. The songs sucked ass. And the feeling of the episode was just awful. Everything was so bad. And then the Klingons eventually got there, and I told you I would. The Klingon K-pop or rap or whatever you want to call it was just ridiculous. Now I got I think I got a comment on my review on that episode where someone said, "Yeah, well, yeah, they're singing and dancing K-pop, and that's where the dishonor comes from, and they feel dishonored, and my point is, they were written that way as a joke. It was a joke. There was nothing in keeping with the character of the Klingons. It wasn't funny. It was cringy, and not accurate to what Klingons, who Klingons are. Oh, they can say, well, it was human music that did it. It was human music that spread throughout the galaxy. So all the aliens were singing human style music. Yes, but you're just disgracing Star Trek by doing it. By having those Klingons doing that on the screen, you're defacing Star Trek and the core ideas of who the Klingons are. And I think it was horrible. It was in bad taste, and it sucked. These people aren't concerned or care about lore. They are trying to appeal to a Chris Chan IQ level of audience. Just consume product. Also, Strange New Worlds can't come up with a single original story, or their scripts are copies of something superior. Yeah, absolutely. Why do they have to use the Gorn? It's stupid. Yeah, well, one thing I found with New Trek, and I mentioned it to some degree earlier, is they find a core Star Trek idea or species or something that proved to be somewhat popular amongst normies, and something people can understand, and something people can recall. You know, everyone who, even non-Star Trek fans, that's where they get their ideas, or that's where they pick their direction. Is what non-Star Trek. There must be like a survey form that they put out, some polls or something. So, you know, do you like Star Trek? No. Okay, so what's the most recognisable name in Star Trek for someone who doesn't know Star Trek? The Gorn. The Gorn, yeah, that green thing that Kirk fights, because it's one of the famous scenes. Oh, what's another famous alien that you know? Oh, the Borg. Yeah, those creatures that have got the technology in them. Yeah, okay. What about any more? Well, Klingons. Everyone knows Klingons. The Klingons on the starboard valve. You know, yeah. The Klingons there, and they must get these surveys and go, right. Okay, so the normies, the people who don't watch Star Trek, the people who don't like Star Trek, hence the core the core non-fans, the people who are out there not giving a shit about Star Trek that we want to draw in because they're our new audience. Fuck the fans. They know Q, the Borg, the Gorn. They know the Romulans, yeah, let's go with those 4 core ideas. How about that? Everybody knows Kirk, everyone knows Pike, everyone knows, and that's what they'll do. And by catering it to an audience that doesn't really like Star Trek or watch Star Trek and they want to bring those audience members in, they neglect their core audience who enjoy Star Trek. So I think that's generally why they had to use the Gorn. Because they're a recognisable staple of Star Trek. And certainly the original series. But New Trek does this all the time. It'll take something that's easily recognisable as Star Trek and just drill it. I mean, Section 31, for example, probably breaks that little rule that I've just made. But does it really? Because it's one thing that is a focus, and they pick that one thing and they pick it apart until there's nothing left. They reuse it and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it until it gets diluted. You know, and for anyone who has watched a particular show, maybe showing a little bit of nicheness here, but if you've ever watched Trailer Park Boys, back when Trailer Park Boys was exclusive to Canada, I think it was, and it was very difficult to get hold of. I managed to get hold of Trailer Park Boys years and years ago. I mean, we were talking well over a decade ago, back when I was living with my parents. Oh, that was way too far in the past. And it was niche, and it was a very, very funny show, and it was great, and it was just, it was like this little gem, and I loved it. And my mate introduced me to it, and we absolutely loved it. We went to see them live, and it was really cool, really awesome, really cool. And then they got well known. They became less niche. Netflix got them. And they made more seasons, and you got some of the actors passed away. John Dunsworth, I believe, passed away, bless him. Jim Leahy, the guy who played him, and it's slowly gotten diluted to the point it's unrecognisable, and I think that's pretty much what is happening to a lot of these franchises. They are becoming so popular that they get diluted into something that they clearly aren't, or were never supposed to be. I've just gone on a rant. I do apologise, but that's my point. I loved Trailer Park Boys. Now I can't watch it because it's just not what it was when it was niche. The problem isn't even they don't honour the previous series. The stories, the dialogue, it's just bad on its own. Ruining Star Trek just makes it worse. Yeah, I completely agree there. Why not do something with the Breen or the Orion Syndicate or Nausicaan? Why introduce the Gorn since we've encountered them first? Now, yeah, the Orion Syndicate, they already did cover to some big degrees in Discovery. The Orions were heavily in season 3 and 4, I believe, and they have overused the Orions as well. And again, it's another staple, isn't it? It's an Orion slave girl. Oh, everyone knows the Orion slave girls because all the fans dress up as Orion slave girls. Some men as well, which has mixed results. But no. Oops. It's another staple, isn't it? It's another thing that people recognise, so they just overdo it. Oh, I'm a Gorn. I'm a Gorn. I'm a Orion. You notice me because of my green skin. I'm an Orion. It's ridiculous. I hate the way they do that. The Breen would have been interesting. I'd love to have seen more about the Breen. But the good thing about the Breen is that there's an air of mystery there. What's really underneath that mask, and what is their homeworld really like? Is it a frozen wasteland, or, as Wayne said, is it quite a comfortable climate? Why not do something? Oh no, I've already read that one. The musical was so jokey, it was terrible. Yeah, Matthew, I completely agree with you there. It was, oh god, it was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Clayton, I'm back. Decided to sacrifice phone battery and data to watch on the bus ride home. Oh, thank you, Clayton. It's always good to have you on the stream again. And your sacrifice will not go unnoticed. Thank you very much. And Clayton, they've ruined the Breen. Yeah, they would. Is there an audience? I wonder what will get wrecked first, Strange New Worlds or Paramount Plus as a streaming service? The trouble is with streaming services is they don't need to tell you what they're pulling in as an audience or audience figures or anything like that. They can skew them, sketch them, they can falsify them, they can just not release them and say our shows are doing well. But unfortunately, the bottom line will not lie. If they're not making money, they're not going to be able to keep the streaming service going, are they? Horrendous. Strange New Worlds is just awful. Pike has been done a great disservice and Strange New Worlds. He's become the ship's cook. Okay, yeah, the actor taking time out for his family. Yeah, we all get it. But they turned him into the ship's cook, and kind of a farce. So they drew us all in with Anson Mount and how brilliant he was and how much loved he was in Discovery and all of that. And Discovery got worse, and as soon as Pike left, it got really bad, and people thought Pike was amazing, and turns out he wasn't. He wasn't. They made Pike such a pansy. God. The Breen just have ginger afros under their helmets. They won't show their faces in case Netflix recasts them. So, you bad man. Shit on a stick. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm sure the Breen are ginger underneath. So yeah. Strange New Worlds. Wow. And that's the most recent one, isn't it? Now, I would talk about a little bit about Prodigy, because I hear has it been picked up by Netflix and avoided cancellation. I did read that somewhere. It may have just been a fake. That's fake news. It may have been wrong, but I read somewhere that it'd been picked up. I might be wrong. And you got Lower Decks, and you also got those shitty short treks, which I've seen a few of them, and oh god, they are wildly disrespectful to Star Trek. Oh god, they were so bad. But you've got that, and you've got the Lower Decks. Now, I'm not a Lower Decks fan. I really don't like Lower Decks. I can't say I'm a fan of Rick and Morty. Clayton was right. I'm not a fan of Rick and Morty, but I don't think I've watched enough of Rick and Morty to really understand Rick and Morty. I'm a big South Park fan. I love South Park. South Park to me is it's just brilliant. You guys are so amazing. So amazing. I love South Park. I think South Park's fantastic. So Rick and Morty is a little different. It's a show that I'm going to have to get used to. But Rick and Morty has no place in the Star Trek universe, and Star Trek has no place having a Rick and Morty style show of Star Trek. It doesn't work for me. It really doesn't work. It's just not funny. It's not funny. And it's Star Trek doesn't parody itself. It should never parody itself. It should always be parodied by other shows. It should never parody itself, and that's what Lower Decks does. And it does it with such obvious freaking bias. I mean, Mariner saves the day all the time, and she gets no consequences. She breaks the rules, and she gets fucking promotions. For fuck's sake. I mean, you couldn't be more two-dimensional with your writing. It's horrendous. And you got Boimler, who's just this fucking cowardly dweeb every fucking episode. Not wanting to do anything. Oh, God, it's horrendous. Prodigy is very much a kid's show, but the storyline in the universe is more Trek-like than most of the new stuff. I've only seen season 1, though. I have seen 7 episodes of season 1. I've not finished it yet. It's difficult to get through, I must admit. I actually don't mind Prodigy in the context of a kids' show. Its heart seems to be in the right place. Yes, that is one thing that I did notice about Prodigy. It seems that its heart is there. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Is it more depressing that a kids' show is more accurate to Star Trek than the adult version of Star Trek? You know, in some ways, I wish they would treat Star Trek like a kids' show, because in some respects, if you've got adults writing for a kids' show and not kids writing for an adult show, I think isn't that a bit of a stark difference? I think that's pretty much what it is. You've got New Trek for adults, which is written by kids, and New Trek for kids, which is written by adults. So there you go. Caption that one. I might caption that and just make that a little video for it in itself. Can't wait for South Park special on 27. Oh, is that the one that's causing a bit of controversy? Oh, like South Park does, with Hollywood. I was really annoyed that Picard season 2 referenced Rick and Morty, especially since Rick and Morty referenced Star Trek. Long before that Picard episode. Wow, I didn't know. Did it reference it? Oh, you know what? I'm losing. I'm getting foggy on that one. I can't remember. But yeah, Lower Decks, not funny. Nice to see so many Easter eggs and references, but beyond that, again, a show can't simply survive just because it has Easter eggs. You've got people who love Lower Decks simply because it makes all these references. Well, that doesn't make it good. That doesn't make it a good show. It just makes it a show with a lot of references. 9 times out of 10, those references are shit anyway. It's yeah, I know it's supposed to be a different kind of Star Trek show, but it's just... You wouldn't make a comedy out of a serious show and expect it to be good. It's just tonally different. Rick and Morty's tonally different than Star Trek. It always has been. You know, it's like if I was to what's a good example? What's an example here? If I was to take, I don't know, the new Gran Turismo movie, which is about an up and coming, or basically it's a zero to hero story, isn't it? About a race car driver, and I was to retell that story, but with but in South Park, for fuck's sake, fuck it, I don't care. But within South Park, it wouldn't be that good, would it? It would be a South Park episode with references Gran Turismo. Just doesn't work. You're not going to be able to do it. It just doesn't fit. And Lower Decks doesn't fit. I'm sorry, it just doesn't fit within the Star Trek universe. The Doctor's from something Klingit in 2024 watched Rick and Morty. Ah, right. I beg your pardon. I missed that. Exactly. Imagine making Law and Order, the animated sitcom. Thank you, Clayton. Again, I want your brain. That's a better analogy than what I gave. Same point, I think. But yeah, we had Night Court for that. Yeah. Prodigy is weird. You have reference and characters from other Star Trek shows. What kid nowadays knows who Janeway is? It's a fair point. Not many who would know who Janeway is. I bet Tuvix knows. So yeah, there's a conversation about New Trek. There you go. I'm going to stream for another 10 minutes. You have me for 10 minutes to say what you wish to say. Ask what you wish to ask. And talk about what you wish for. We'll do more of these little therapy streams. And Clayton, we will do our second part of the favourite episodes. As soon as you are available, sir, I shall avail myself. New Trek is like the time Hamlet wrestled the Hulk, married Rosencrantz, and Guildenstern was the daughter. Together they rule the earth, just like Shakespeare wrote. Did it get picked up by Netflix? Did I read it wrong, or am I wrong, or did it get picked up by Netflix? Because I read somewhere it got saved by Netflix, and I don't know how accurate that is, because I don't know how awake I was when I read it. Could you imagine Prodigy with a Michael Burnham hologram running... Oh my god, running the ship. Well, yeah, because she'd teach him how to mutiny. I'd imagine. Oh, man. The thing is, they love Burnham, don't they? And that's the thing. They love Burnham. They think Burnham's fucking great. I think Burnham's a sack of shit, personally, but hey. Yes, it got saved by Netflix. Well, there you go. Does that mean I'll be able to watch Prodigy on Netflix? Interesting. I mean, I can watch Prodigy anytime I want, but I don't know. Kurtzman seemed embarrassed to say it at Comic Con. That's weird. Yes, they picked up the second season, but no word on any future seasons. See, Netflix was done with Star Trek in some ways, wasn't it? Because it just wasn't getting the viewing figures, so all new Trek came off and went on to Paramount Plus. But Netflix in this country still has all 5 original Star Trek shows that you can just sit and watch because they are getting viewership figures. People are still watching and re-watching those. You know, DS9 had this surge on streaming services where, you know, it was so popular. People were binging it and coming back to Netflix and, you know, everything like that. It's where I watch a majority of my Star Trek is Netflix. I will say one thing about streaming services, a little tangent for you, but one of the thoughts I had the other day. Oh, Zeld, $4.99 super chat. Here's the money for a great stream. Wish I could talk to you more. There's so much I can't fit into chat. Much love, Zell. It's been. Thank you so much. You don't need to do that, but thank you so much. That is very generous. You guys are so generous. I love you guys. I really do. Let's just be here with a beer. I love you guys so much. I really do. Oh, thank you. And hey, man, look. At the end of the day, if you are up for it and you want to do it at some point, how about we have a proper chat and I'll get you on a stream if you want, if that's what you want. You know, if you don't, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, it'd be great to have you on the stream sometime. Be brilliant. Yeah, I just want to quickly touch on one thing. Streaming. Streaming's great. Streaming is brilliant because you can switch your television on, go onto Netflix, and watch anything that you want at any time without having to get up and put a disc in your DVD player, your PlayStation, or whatever. You can do that because you have that freedom. Because you pay your subscription and you get the new shows as soon as they drop. And that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But there is a real danger with streaming. I was thinking about this the other day when I was watching Supernatural and the end of season 1. And Supernatural, the end of season 1, if you haven't seen Supernatural, then just cover your ears for a sec. Because the end of Supernatural season 1, the car, one of the characters is that the car in Supernatural gets hit and sideswiped by a truck. And as that scene is happening, they are the radio's playing a certain song. Now I can't remember off the top of my head what that song was. Okay, it's playing a certain song, and I had the Region 1 DVDs. I got them from America, and I watched that season 3 times over. I loved that season of Supernatural. I loved the next 4. And that scene was so sort of holy shit hot in your mouth. And the music made all the difference. Seems like I'm talking bollocks, but I'm getting to a point. That scene with the music, with that specific track, made it special. And it worked. It worked. So I'm going through Supernatural again. Because I just wanted to. Only the first 5 seasons, though, because that's all that counts. And I'm watching it on Amazon. And they changed the fucking music. That scene, they changed the fucking music. And it took so much away. It was horrible. I was genuinely pissed off. They changed the music. Probably due to licensing rights or whatever. It doesn't matter. They changed the music, and then I went to episode 2, the recap, and then the episode 2 picks up directly afterwards, and there's the original piece of music. So in one season, they changed the piece of music that was playing inside the Impala, but not in season 2. They didn't change it in season 2. The importance of physical media. I'm going to say it now. Get stuff on physical media. I know it takes up space. I know it does. But get it on physical media, because they can't change it. They can't alter it. They can't remove stuff from physical media. Buy physical bloody media. It's so important. I own all 5 Star Trek series, pre-2005, on DVD. I have them downstairs, and I proudly own it all. And that's the way it stays. No, they can't upscale, or you can't upscale them. Fine. The Netflix run the upscaled HD upscaling of the next generation, but not the S9, because they won't touch that for some reason. No one will touch that. And that's fine. But the physical media is there, and it can't be altered. I cannot tell you how important it is, because they can go in and change whatever they want on the streaming service. They do. They'll cut things out that people find offensive. Look how badly, as much as Friends is outdated now, look how badly Friends has been butchered on streaming networks, because there's certain jokes that people might find offensive. Physical media. I cannot say it enough. Physical media. You see Star Trek and you haven't got it, buy it. Physical media. Apart from the new series, don't buy them. A little tangent there. I do apologise. But yeah, that is so important. It pissed me off so much, because it broke it broke everything that was familiar. It was like listening to a song that you've listened to 100 times, and you love this song, and then you find out and you're listening to it on Spotify, and you find out that someone didn't like the way the guitar sounded, and they re-recorded it right in the middle of a song. It was horrible. Canadian Netflix has most of the original series too. Brilliant. Glad to hear it. But again, physical media. Get physical media, Clayton. The thing I hate the most of New Trek is the messages that they think they are sending compared to the messages really are. Yeah, morality. I forgot to mention this. Morality of New Trek. The morality of New Trek is non-existent. Morality is non-existent. Oh, in fact, it's just bad morality. Moral compass of these people. The people who write the show, the characters that they're writing, it's horrible. They're horrible people, and I do not look up to anyone in New Trek. Nobody in New Trek. I don't look up to a single character in New Trek. At all. None. What's that tell you? None of them are any good. They're horrible people. I will be well up for that in the future, mate. Same here. Absolutely. Supernatural only has 5 seasons. I try to forget the rest. Exactly, 5 seasons. The Kripke seasons, okay? Say what you want about Kripke now, with the boys and everything, but 5 seasons of Supernatural. Change slightly the ending for season 5. That's a perfect 5 seasons. That's how it should have been. That's where it should have ended, and that's where it should have stopped. But you notice, after season 5 ended and Sarah Gamble took over, the show tonally changed to the Sam and Dean Talk About Your Feelings show. Mainly because, to be fair, Supernatural, the target audience went from men to women really quick. Just another watch nerd. The thing that pre-2005 Trek had awesome messaging and really made you think. Now we just have people who don't understand Trek hitting us over the head with rubbish. Yep. It's like watching House on streaming and the terrible replacement song they have at the opening because they couldn't get Massive Attack's Teardrop. Yeah. Yeah. Again. Physical media. So important. DVDs for the original Quantum Leap have had changed music from the broadcast version too because of licensing issues. There's another problem. The way things were originally aired. I remember the episode of again, Friends, when it first aired back in the day, I got the very first aired version of an episode of season 10, I believe, one where Joey doesn't share food, and they had one particular track, and then they replaced it with a re-recorded version of the track due to licensing laws. It was horrible. I prefer Frasier to Friends and have the full Frasier box set. I have the full Friends box set from years ago. It's not so... The kids like to watch it now because, you know, they like to binge watch their shows now. So it's always there in the background. And we have had it in the background for a long time. But it is very much a background show now. You've just seen it all. It's like Big Bang just becomes a thing in the background. Mainly because it ruins geekdom. Some physical media isn't even safe with them censoring books and with sensitivity reader. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to stop them from censoring stuff. They're going to do it all the time. It's fucking horrible. Those are both great shows. IRO, hello. How are you? 5 more minutes on the stream. 5 more minutes. I said I'd speak for 10 more minutes. I'm giving everyone an extra 5 to say what they wish to say, and then I'm going to go because I do have work in the morning, and it has been a fairly long day for me so far. So I shall be heading for one final cup of tea shortly. So I've really enjoyed this stream. It felt good to talk about New Trek, and not just it be me talking on a video with you guys commenting afterwards. You're all making live comments, and I really have enjoyed that an awful lot. So this has been a good stream. 5 more minutes on the stream. I just wanted to say the people who are here, and even the people who are watching this post live, thank you so much for sticking with the channel and giving me messages, and I've had emails and everything like that, and it's been really great to hear from all of you. I don't ever suspect that I'll be as big as The Drinker or Dave Cullen or any of these other YouTubers, but that's okay. I love the little community that I've got on YouTube. I absolutely adore each and every one of you. I think it's been great. I've met some really awesome people. RA, damn, I missed it. Just finished work. Mate, don't worry. I'm still here for 5 more minutes. I'm here for 5 more minutes. But don't worry. It'll be processing shortly, and you'll be able to watch it all the way through. It is so good to have met so many great people. Clayton, Zell, and have some messages from people. Just another watch nerd. It's been great to hear from you and learn about what you like, and your experiences with Star Trek and these other franchises. I might do a talking movies stream as well, and maybe talk about the movies to bring serenity into this. That was fun. Best Trek. Sorry, to bring serenity into this. This was fun. Best Trek live stream in the verse. Oh, best. The trick is to have tab open in the background at the office. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is a sly way of doing it, I suppose. We are you harem. I think yeah, I think you guys are the best. Genuinely. I really do. I love you guys. I love you guys so much. You're brilliant. You're great to talk to as well. It's good fun. Did you say anything about Space Jesus? We have spoken about Space Jesus. There has been some Space Jesusing going on, some mocking, some ridicule, and yeah, we've pretty much covered the big 3 New Trek shows, which is Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds. So yeah, we've pretty much covered it. I did cover the movies slightly at the beginning, but I didn't really delve too deeply into those because they were, well, bad. But so glad to see others with the same New Trek views. Mystic Librarian, yeah, absolutely. It has it's been eye-opening. You know, the I think the biggest problem with the channel at the moment is the YouTube algorithm. It is kicking the channel down quite a lot. It is such a difficult algorithm to beat because you have to go viral to really get momentum, and my face is not something that goes viral. It looks like it's caught something viral, but it's just not enough to get the channel moving. Do I want the channel to become a huge success and become famous within the YouTube community? I'm not entirely certain at this point, really. I quite like this. This feels a bit more intimate to me, you know, talking to a group of people. It's like a support group, but it's still fun. You know, when your audience opens up a little bit, you get exposed to more negativity than you do positivity. Space Jesus, first of a name, savior of the Andals, the galaxy, and the Federation. All hail! You're my favorite YouTube Trekkie man. With what's going on in my country, Palestine, I really need your humor and wit to lighten the mood a bit. Wow, that's powerful, man. I am very, very, very sorry for what is happening over there. There's so much turmoil, and I'm glad that I can bring something to lighten the mood. If in some ways I think this stream is not going to lighten people's moods because it's about a crappy all the crappy new Trek, but I'm glad that I'm able to lift people up in that way. Some of my humor. I'm Marmite. Some people like me, some people hate me. Thanks again for the streams. Watching your commentary is a good time. Thanks, Matthew. It's really good of you to say. It's really humbling. Thank you. I feel like I'm liking doing these streams because it's a good chance to talk directly to you. But I do miss making videos, and I will make some. It's just time. I have so little time. Clayton will attest to that. Me and him are kindred spirits in that sense. We just don't have time. And as Clayton says, at this point, it's hard to get traction on YouTube unless you're doing it 24 hours with support staff. Yeah, exactly. You've got to treat YouTube like a business. The thing is, YouTube is free. It only takes time and a bit of investment for gear and stuff to create a YouTube channel. It's only your time that you're investing in it. But you've got to come up with a product that's so unique that no one else is doing it and everyone's watching it. And it's just a lot of work, you know, and yeah, you have to do it full time. And to go full time and make that jump and not be successful is devastating. It can be devastating. Alright, but your humour about New Trek is wonderful. You do help. I appreciate that, my friend. I really do. And yeah, I try to keep upbeat about New Trek because it's so drastic. It's just so horrible what they're doing to things nowadays. But you know, it did birth my my exhausting Picard impression. It's so exhausting doing it. Time is the fire in which we burn, I hear. Yeah, time is the enemy at times. It is it's very difficult. Okay, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up because I said I'd end the stream about 7 minutes ago, but I'm gonna end it there, and I'm gonna say a big thank you to everybody who has sent super chats. Wow, you guys are very generous. You don't need to do it, but you're very generous. Thank you, and I'm always thankful. And I'm thankful to everyone else in the chat as well, who is coming and giving their opinions and having a conversation about New Trek. It's been really great to do these streams, and I will be doing probably another one on Sunday. What about? I don't know, but we shall see. I always look forward to your streams. Hopefully one day we can get you to a UK meetup. Well, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping I'm hoping I'll be welcome to one of those things, definitely, and it'd be great to meet people physically, you know, on some of these places, and really get to know people. I'm not a budding social person. I don't have a social life too much. I'm a bit of an indoor cat. But hey, you know. Our super chat from RA. Oh wow, $5. Oh, thank you so much, my friend. Again, you don't need to do this, but thank you. It's not unappreciated. I really do love it, but you guys don't need to do this. I love you all. Thank you so much. Great stream as always. Nice chatting with everyone. Clayton, yeah, absolute legend. I'm going to plug Clayton's book again. Get it. It's Holocene. It's a great book. Get it, buy it. You won't be disappointed. It's a superb book. It's an easy read, and it's a lot of fun to try and work out what's going on. Get his book. Is brilliant. Absolutely. There you go, Clayton. There's another plug for you. Live long and prosper, Jackie. Thank you, RA. Thank you so much for that super chat. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you. Live long and prosper, just another watch nerd, and yourself, Zell. And I will try and keep up these streams, and we'll probably talk the movies. What do you reckon? The next stream we talk the movies, good movies, bad movies, just all the movies. Let's just go through all of the Star Trek movies. What do you think? Got my copy, Zell. You're a legend. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Well, nice one. You won't be disappointed. It's a great book. Read it. It's brilliant. Yeah, look after yourselves. I shall see you on the next stream. Much love to you. You look after yourselves. Look after one another. You're an awesome group of people. Peace out. Thanks for watching. Great stream. Thank you very much. Take it easy. I'm going to go to bed.